someone suggested I should play the long and arduous road in HOI4 TNO, which is basically a sub-mod that upgrades the Chinese path as the muddled lands of China awakens from decades of confusion. Opening her eyes once more, she inspects the world and herself. The chains of the rising sun bind her limbs, but not for long. We're obviously playing as the Republic of China. Why is everything Chinese? I installed the translation submod as well. I had to install so many submods just to make this work. Hopefully, it's properly translated. China, one of my favorite focuses in TNO. One of my favorite nations to play as in HOI4 in general. I'm excited to see what they've added. We start off with the regular focus, I think. There look to be some slight tweaks in here, I think, in the military affairs. But that's for the future. We have to start off with education. The first of the modernizations. And build a beautiful future for China. And we're lacking everything, goddamn. Well, let's start off with hospitals maybe, eh? I think we'll probably need a lot of them. Look at the sheer amount of states. Was this always like this? I feel like just by TNO adding a lot of it, China seems even bigger. There is even a difficulty customization. I will leave it be for now. There's so much to do for us. Due to our military activities remaining covered, the suspicion level will remain unchanged at the end of this month. Okay. Let's get started. We've got our work cut out for us. The history of China is a complex one, perhaps the most ancient civilization known to man. China has both dominated and been held under the boot. As the moon waxes and wanes, so does China, and currently the nation has suffered under decades of embarrassment, the so-called century of humiliation. But as rebels seized Nanjing and the Qing dynasty came to its end, hope abounded, hope for a new republican state where the Han controlled China. The liberties and vices of the Roaring Twenties came to a sudden stop with the coordinated Japanese invasion. Two giants of China, Chiang Kai-shek and Mao Zedong, died together as they fought against the Japanese menace in the ruins of Chongqing. Former Kuomintang loyalist turned Japanese collaborator Wang Jingwei began negotiations with the Japanese, but found out they had no other intentions but to make China a colony. Wang Jingwei resigned to his fate and died, knowing that he had betrayed his country and ushered in another era of humiliation. The majority of China still begrudgingly supports the Japanese regime, even if it weren't granted national self-determination. The Japanese have kept China from falling back into anarchy of 2 decades prior, while warlords still run rampant on the peripheries. We remain shackled to the Japanese yoke in countless ways, but I believe that An can save the world. All was not hopeless, however. A new generation of Chinese, too young to remember the war, strove for a revived spirit. Old lackeys friendly to the Japanese still held the greatest influence, but as a power vacuum formed, they looked towards Gao Zhongwu, a diplomat during the war, a weak candidate. What neither faction knew was that Gao, a cautious individual, intended to make use of his time in office. He had great plans for Zhongguo, the nation rising from the ashes. We need to modernize through 5 steps to become equals or maybe even superiors against China. Well, not against China, against Japan. A little bit of a Freudian slip right there. And the next mechanic, the Sacred Army. The siege of Chongqing ended with the Republic of China and brought about extreme restrictions on the Chinese military, backed by Japanese power. These restrictions have not yet been lifted, yet the Japanese have seen fit to gradually pull out of China, leaving our poorly trained, poorly equipped garrisons to handle the many insurgencies that have now cropped up across the country. We'll begin the remilitarization of China through the secret army to save Japan's sight. That's this right here. The time required to complete a secret army task is dependent on the NSB effectiveness. Okay, right now we're not very effective, but I want to fund weapon development right away. Modernization, the great project of modern China, is a risky one. The Japanese will try to undermine our very move once they realize our ambitions, especially the ambitions that require more autonomy for the legitimate Chinese state. Which is not to mention Gao Zhongwu's secret army, the creation of which can never be known by the foreign imperialists, lest our efforts become undone by the imperial army. The outbreak of the Cold War and efforts made by Chinese officials have forced the Japanese to retreat all army units from our territory, aside from the Northwestern Pacification Army. Okay, we will have to navigate our way pretty much. To combat mass illiteracy and its consequences on the efficiency of the government, Zhongwu has issued a general reform of the education system, promising sweeping changes to the country's attitude towards literacy. Gao's offensive against the pathetic educational system comes in three-pronged attacks. Firstly, the people must read. Increasing literacy sounds simple enough, but with such a massive and widely dispersed population, ensuring that everyone can read is no easy feat. To ensure the next generation of Chinese students receive the best education, the reform proposal also calls for hosting intellectuals from Japan. And finally, once students meet the bare minimum of reading and writing, as taught by highly qualified Japanese teachers, we will grant them a revitalized and modern curriculum. Well, we'll see how well that goes, huh? We'll see how well that goes. Let's start with their literacy programs. Whenever anyone in the neighborhood mentions Old Lee, the one who runs the corner store, no one has anything but a good word for him. 10 or so years ago, everyone saw him arrive covered in dust and grime. The next day, he went door to door and greeted every single one of his new neighbors pleasantly, saying that he had just come from Chongqing in an accent that sounded nothing like Sichuanese. Of course, his neighbors took a shine to him, and he carved out a little life for himself in Wuhan's Hanyang Township. Lee had an energetic style of living. Soon after his arrival, he brought a small storefront near his home and made a living selling decent groceries. He had even made a name for himself, occasionally selling rare knickknacks no one had ever seen. Word on the street was that he'd outdrank a couple guys he's close to, as brothers would now. They help him with moving goods and always have a drink together after the work's done. He would always display a copy of the Classic of Changes in the store, and that made him the butt of some jokes told around the drinking table. But he'd always decline any offers, saying that he didn't actually know how to do divination. The book was just for fun. Once in a while, though, when he was alone, he would open up the book to the page with the 8 trigrams, and most inexplicably, his tears would begin to fall. As they did, his fingers would trace his tears on the sheet. And in a handwriting that looked decidedly non-Chinese, he'd spell out Li Nanshan. Li also habitually walked around in the Han River. At first, some people tried waiting for him to get back to the store. They gave up soon after they saw Li coming back in the small hours of the morning and realized that he was, in fact, gone for the whole day. Every time someone asked where he was from, Li would always say only that his family moved to Sichuan in the first year of the Republic and that he grew up there. Anything else, he adamantly refused to disclose, no matter how insistent someone was asking. Is he Japanese or something? Oh, he's from Korea! 1 year, 2, 3, 10, 12 and on, Old Lee naturally became an irreplaceable member of his township. Yet Lee's first name was not actually Lee. Nobody knew that he was born in Seoul. Nobody knew that at the age of 9, he went with his parents to a rally, listened to the fiery orators, and shouted alongside millions of others, "Long live independence." He eventually joined the provisional government of the Republic of Korea, which then moved to Chongqing alongside the nationalist government. President Kim Il-sung had established the Korean Liberation Army, arming itself to fight the Japanese that held their homeland in bondage. Lee enlisted, for he hated the Japanese to his core. But when Chongqing itself fell, and he lost contact with all his comrades amidst the collapse of the provisional government, he fled once again. But this time, where to? He had to lay low. Sometimes, as he lay awake in the dead of the night, he would recall a dimming memory of Seoul, remembering how he had gazed from atop Namsan Mountains at the rushing Han River, how he longed for his beloved homeland, how he missed his lost family. Sometimes, when his heartache became unbearable, he would take out from his trunk a faded yet spotless taegukgi. The words 10,000 years to independence Korea was written on it in blood, and silently weep. He was turning 52 this year. He had not much of his life left, that he knew. What he did not know was whether he would ever see his own one again, alive or in a casket. Oh, we might be able to get Korea independent. We're also establishing some new literary reforms, which are very promising apparently. Academic-based monthly change. Yes. We're only 1 month into the campaign. You know what? Fund weapons development again, huh? Why not? We have a yearly deficit, actually. We save some money to help pay off our debts. That's great. Let's for now do some military austerity as well. In the Zhongwu cabinet, there is a particularly sturdy rumor. It speaks of a great national project, one to define China for decades. There's not, however, some great monumental building. nor is it some meandering road or railway. It is something far greater than all of those. A project of modernization. We will innovate the very fire of China. By making the language more accessible to everyone, we will make sure that everyone will be able to read and thus become more rebellious. Let's invite some Japanese intellectuals, huh? I would like to study the art of the blade, or something like that. I don't know, man. Opportunity to port Dalian, which is, I'm guessing, this one, right? The ships arrived along the shore, carrying with them our hopes and dreams of a renewed China. Teachers, by the thousands. Oh, hell yeah. The Chinese economic report to inflate the numbers is for our own good. Do we really care? Sure. It's my turn to play Wei. You're a big idiot. Kaito adjusted her glasses nervously as she flicked through the ginormous stack of papers plopped upon her desk. Kaito loved teaching. It is what she was born to do, and she wanted to do something good for those who need it most. Combining her aspirations and moving to rural China seemed like the obvious answer. Her idealistic passion may have clouded her judgment. This is not what she had envisioned. Kaito had been brought back to reality from a nightmarish screech from the back of the class. Liu hit me, Mrs. Teacher. Liu hit me. Now, everyone. We're all friends here. Would you look at the time? I think it's time that we learned each other's names. Why don't you go first, young lady? Slowly and shakily, something that resembled Wei began to take shape on the chalkboard. When she was done, of course, of my turn, I can do it better, erupted from the classroom. Hell yeah. Teach them. Let's get some organization of the curriculum as well, right? We get 2.5 increase in our modernization, which isn't much because we need to level this up 6 times. And so it happened to become an impossibility to live under the shadow of the mountains and the gaze of the chairman. It had all begun one afternoon, a day of rest. See, for the communists, the long march never ended. It had paused during the war, but then it had continued, an endless exodus into a nation, so large that the plains and mountains and forests went on for days. Their enemies were many and great, and the distances greater. They had fallen asleep in the middle of the day, exhausted from each and every trek. One snuck into the food stores for a meal and fell to his knees. It was all gone, save for a few crumbs. Even this was not enough to destroy the holdouts. They had braved worse. The tragedy that followed boded the true collapse. It was not supposed to come to an end like this. Each one had envisioned a bold end, fighting to the death in the lands that they loved. So when the man went to bed hungry and depressed with his comrades, they were not expecting an attack in the rudest of times. The police were first. 2 villagers out hunting had seen a camp being set up and reported it to the local officers. And this is what became of those who slept under the gaze of Mao. Kuomintang spies in our government. Let's go in here. We'll also get extra political power gain, which, we definitely need. Zhen woke up to the sound of gunfire, yet he barely stirred. Hung was on watch today, and Noah was shooting targets. Breakfast was being made, and judging by the gluttonous smell in the air, it was sticky rice. Stores were running low, and today was raid day. That could wait. This was the one day Zhen was given the privilege of sleeping in. An old radio played some Chinese songs from before the war, and he wished he could go back to sleep to those melodies. But once Zhen awoke, he was unable to go back to sleep. There's no point in tossing and turning in his cot. They watched from the hill, villagers going about their daily lives. The homes were wood and dirt, half collapsing. A cement building in the center had a flag that stood still. There was no wind today. The big man strolled around, smiling and greeting residents, smartly dressed, with a pin of the flag of the false republic on his breast pocket. Bastard. There was something too confident about him. It was the first time he had ever felt anything like it, but Zhen had a nagging feeling in his heart. Courage, most likely. To his fellow raiders, he pointed to the food stores down the hill to the south. When each had given him an affirmative, they yelled some words that had lost meaning to each other a long time ago and charged. He was not surprised why the peasants called them the beasts of the mountains. They fit the picture. Dirty, clothes slathered, teeth bared. They were beasts, but beasts with a righteous cause. The villagers were still screaming, and there was still work to do. Quicker than he thought, his men emerged from the storehouse with panicked looks on their faces. He understood why there was no resistance. The storehouse went up in flames before his men could get out. Out of all the screams, it was only theirs that he could hear. There was no resistance because it was a trap. It was not courage or ferocity. It was fear. Whoops. It was early spring morning in April, where the sun had lightly brushed against the edges of the eastern horizon, when the dew still coated the stone grey steps that led to Dr. Sun's tomb. From the entrance gate to the very top, the bustle of nearby Nanjing had escaped the restless place of the nation's father. Everything was quiet, save for the chirping of birds and the rustling of the trees. There was not a single soul along the way. Cherry blossoms bloomed, a donation from the Japanese. The trees swayed as a gentle, warm spring wind breezed through the canopies. As he passed through the sacrificial hall, he thought of the phrase, "What is under heaven is for all," he thought to himself. What a generous, liberal-minded phrase. How so utterly naive, yet so enchantingly real. Gao looked at the ceiling, at the white sun set on a blue sky. Sometimes it was hard to believe that the Xinhai Revolution had only occurred 50 years ago. China had changed so much since then, for better or for worse. "Ah, Master Gao," a voice boomed within the hall's interior. I've been expecting you. "Master Liu, I see the tomb is spick and span, as clean as ever. Dr. Sun would have been proud. Please, Master Gao. Every time you visit Dr. Sun, you overwhelm me with the praises. I am only doing my work. Let the heavens attest." "Master Zhou and Zhang cannot come, I presume?" "No," Gao kept his smile. "They're too busy ensuring that Dr. Sun's legacy will survive in the future. Meanwhile, I'm too busy looking to the past to look forward to anything. How is your family? I understand that your son is entering university soon. Is there anything I can do to help?" Liu became bashful at the suggestion. "I would be very honored, but my son would have none of it. I may confide with you. He is a true Nanjing man, you see, and he still blames the government for what the Japanese did 20 years ago. It was awful, I agree. Still, the young ought not to reject the guidance of their elders. Have you spoken to him about this?" "Yes, but he would not change his view. Freedom is the greatest virtue of a nation," he says. "Freedom, the young do not truly understand the price of it." "Did you say anything, Master Gao?" "Nothing. Nothing at all. Expand our recruitment a little bit more, why don't we? Actually, we need to expand our training as well. We're getting 4% a month now. That's not bad, but it certainly could be improved. For the last 2 decades, Japan has played the role of a puppet master, pulling all the strings in Asia. After Japan's decisive victory over the Western powers, they emerged as an unmatched power on the world stage. When Chinese businessmen grow into this Japanese-dominated world without even basic knowledge of the language, they are unable to survive beyond the local level. Without the ability to communicate with the Zaibatsu and the Japanese economic and political institutions that dominate Asia, China is doomed to fail. We must learn Japanese for the greater good. At least for now. Eventually we'll make sure that they learn Chinese instead. The streets of Shanghai are dirty and undesirable. Beggars line every corner and cower under every sunroof. A week ago, anti-imperialist graffiti and obscene drawings were found sprinkled along the bottom of the Chinese Mitsubishi offices. As soon as these crude illustrations were found, authorities began to investigate. After raiding numerous homes in the slums, the police charged into a woman's home. The elderly woman, frightened, began to beat the men with sandals. While the officers endured the slight discomfort for a couple of minutes, they eventually knocked the woman out and found stacks of empty spray cans down the stairs beneath the ground floor. Also down the basement was a teenager cowering in the corner, shaking. After being shot with rubber bullets, the teenager was dragged out and forced to confess his crimes of disturbing peace. The liberal skank, the brat that he was, ratted out his accomplices, who were promptly arrested. A military tribune found him guilty and sentenced them to death for treason. The teenagers who had been rotting in the cell for days were finally brought to the gallows. One fainted, his knees buckled before stepping up to the rope. The soldiers present shot him in the head. The rest had the noose put around their necks. One of them, short and rat-faced, had the nerve to make his last words. "Fuck the emperor." Finally, as the stool was pulled underneath the final perpetrator, he screamed in a final moment of defiance, "Long live Chiang Shikai." We will never know his final words. Will we really not? Come on. Who else could it have been? The Coca-Cola incident? What do you mean? For decades now, there has been a national reawakening in America. A shift in the American interest. Not in a god or a culture or ideology, but something more simple. Oh, Coca-Cola pretty much became a thing. We will not allow American products on our soil. Whatever you say, brother. Shiming ate his rice in silence. Rain was coming. The clouds danced swiftly across the sky. Putting down his bowl, he got back to work. His break was over. Picking up his tools and pulling up from the bottom of his pants, he trudged back into the field. She rarely left the farm unless he was grabbing groceries in town. He was born, raised, and lived in the fields. It might be boring, but his family had done it for generations. There was no sign that it would ever change. The fields were Xi's home, and like any home, they offered security, albeit a dull one. The boy was walking back to his hut when his parents yelled for him to come quick. Running with a rake in his right hand and his box for lunch in his left, he pushed open the door to see his parents sitting with an unfamiliar man. She was instantly concerned. Had a relative passed away? Were the Japanese finally here to snatch away his parents? Hello, Xi. Your parents and I were just talking about a new school opening in town. Nice. We will become educated, or else. Well, or else we pretty much just die. This will improve NSB effectiveness. Let's put 50 in, eh? And it will be decayed by 0. Actually, never mind. You see, this is worsening somehow. I thought it wasn't supposed to be. I guess everything declines. That's fine. That's fine. Nationalism is learning. Okay. If you say so, buddy. She woke up to a dawning morning. Today was the first day of school, and like any other boy and girl in China, he was nervous. The regular anxiety of a simple boy was only magnified by the sudden need for education. He would much prefer to just stay with his family. However, she dreamed of a larger world. Sometimes he daydreamed of the world beyond his town. The trip was long. The nearest school was 40 kilometers away. Luckily, Xi's parents were not the ones to give in and skip out on the new education reforms. Xi Ming, whether he liked it or not, would be the first to read in his family since time immemorial. The village rose into view, and she let out a sigh. He was finally here. The town was just waking up. Somewhere a rooster crowed. A man walked along the dirt road, ringing a bell and waking up any stragglers. Stopping his flying pigeon, she asked a sleepy village person where the school was. The man pointed towards down the street, to the old recreational hall. The dingy gymnasium had gone unused for many years. The imprints of the 12-pointed sun, long gone, still left their mark on the wall. She was early. He didn't know how to read a clock, but the lack of both teachers and students was a dead giveaway. As the sun finally finished its daily transit over the horizon, the town quickly became alive. In no time, students, both eager and miserable, funneled into the makeshift school, and teachers rolled in supplies and carts full of textbooks. Is this cool? We'll see, brother. Who knows, man? We're getting towards the halfway mark for our first educational modernization progress. The teacher was originally from outside Nanjing, born during the war. Her mother was killed during the Nanjing incident, and while she didn't remember her, she certainly noticed the lack of mother in her life. Both she and her lonely father fervently hated the Japanese. By the time she had pursued a career in teaching, Chinese calls for teachers out west had already been put out. She reported eagerly. The frontier seemed to call her in all its romantic glory. An old automobile drove her into the village, the sort that dotted China, a fish in the biggest sea of the world. Today she would get settled in her new house, a little apartment complex set up for teachers. It must have been the first building built in the last 50 years. What the hell have I got myself into? Our GDP increased by 3%, that's 1.2 billion, damn, that's great. Definitely go for that. Teaching a bunch of ratty tweens and teenagers how to read was challenging, but it was a challenge she was willing to undertake. Dragging the chalk on the chalkboard and squeaking out her name, Li Zhao, she sighed at the task ahead of her, reciting her name and making sure each student knew. She began the task she was here to do, teach. By the middle of the day, Li had already spotted her favorite students. There were those who had an innate love of learning, and there were those who lacked that love. Li made sure to remind herself that these were to be the future of China and all deserved to be taught the same. More importantly, they were to be the ones who would hopefully put an end to the Japanese stranglehold. It is improper and certainly illegal for her to share her true beliefs with the students, but deep down she hoped that her teachings would prepare the generation that would unhinge the Yamato's grip. It's 1963 now. We've gone through a whole year. A lot of events so far, but I feel like we're just getting started. China had been an investment. It was an investment the Empire of Japan had paid for with blood, toil, and treasure. It left millions of her sons dead, and though she had emerged the victor, The years since had shown that the nature of that victory was a slow strangulation with the laurels. Ibuka Masaru had grappled with the question of how to turn the black hole that was China into an opportunity to finally begin reaping the returns that would come long ago. That should have come long ago, and of course, for Fujitsu to take first picks. It was this mindset that he looked into the sunken face of Gao Zhongwu, the president of China. He listened about how Nanjing could barely communicate with massive city centers like Chongqing, despite how important they were for tax collection and policing. He heard about how the center received reports of bandit attacks and unsurrendered soldiers. In his engineer's mind, one thing became clearer and clearer. This was not a question of legitimacy or force of arms. Those things were important, but secondary. No, this was simply a matter of communications. And that is exactly what Fujitsu dealt with. Ibuka Masaru glanced at the interpreter and began. I trust you are aware of what a computer is, Mr. President. What the fuck is that? But I guess we'll see soon. And we're still atrocious at research. We only have 3 research slots as well. She rode his flying pigeon back to school. It had become part of his daily routine, and he relished the solitude and exercise it brought. He would hum tunes on his way. The daily biking had made him fit, more fit than his arduous work on the field. He had found friends at schools, people who thought and talked like him. He fit in at school. More importantly, he was learning. She caught on quickly to reading and excelled far more than other students. His teacher was determined to teach, and she taught well. In time, the students would learn to read, and the teachers would grow gray. Across China, the illiterate turned into the literate. Education was the talk of policymakers in the capital. The Japanese secretly admired the grand modernization of the schools of China. Somewhere in a sleepy town in western China, the light of knowledge burned bright. Oh, educational progress gain increased by 1.5. We definitely need to get there. I think after great minds we'll go towards teaching art, evolution of culture, and then Chinese scholarship. Credit rating has also improved. Nice. Let's do some more military austerity again. Yep, there we go. Uh-oh, Yasuda crisis. Japan collapsed economically, though that might be an opportunity for us. The Philippines is also collapsing. Who knows if Japan gets to keep that? Kinda hope they don't. A weak Japan would be great for us. This Chinese scholarship. Maybe I need to do some civilian austerity as well, huh? There we go. We get a yearly surplus of 80 million, which we'll definitely need, considering our social funding will sharply rise to pay for all of this education that I'll be doing. We're close to our first level. I think after this ticks over, we'll get our first modernization progress. Greetings, Mr. President. The colorful banner hung across the entrance of the decrepit school, adorned with children's drawings of the national flag among the field of flowers. The previous school had welcomed him as President Gao Hongshu. As he ascended the makeshift stairs, Gao was careful to avoid the cracks in the aging wood. An elderly gentleman who introduced himself as Mr. Shui Fang gave an impassioned introduction to the children. Kids, as you know, we are in the presence of a tremendous man, a leader who is pulling China out of the rut it has found itself in. Why doesn't everyone say hello to the most esteemed president? The crowd responded merrily with a chorus of greetings. Gao couldn't help himself. A real smile had begun to form. Maybe things weren't so bad after all. Any hope of a successful visit died as soon as he stepped into the building. The smell hit him first, then the pipes dripping water, then the hole in the ceiling. Gao dropped his head and let out a defeated sigh. There's still much work to be done, obviously. He made a mental note to add special guidances for maintaining the property. Finally, after all was said and done, Gao returned to his limousine and went over the shortcomings of the school. He drafted a list of guidelines for all schools to meet. Chiefly was sanitation, but below it was providing reasonable transport, convenience, quality education, instilling patriotism, and having properly educated teachers. A potential crisis averted. Well, we'll see about that. Oh, this is gonna be expensive, huh? Well, we don't have much of a choice. That surplus that we were rocking for a while, we can say goodbye to that. It got up to 400 million, the surplus. We can increase our education efficiently. Of course, it's going to cost us a little bit of money. What do we get? What do we want? Emphasize the importance of natural sciences, maybe. Does this lower it? No, we're still at 6.5 monthly increase, so that's good at least. This is going to be so expensive, more than 2 billion in just these two focuses. We still have a yearly surplus of 80 million, but that's, by running with civilian and military cuts. Oh, now these ones are open finally. Okay, that's good. Maybe industrialization wouldn't be the worst, so we can improve our GDP a little bit more. All right, let's go. Yeah, let's go with industrialization because I think we are going to be bottlenecked soon with education. Our investments will pay off in the future. Yeah, of course. Pump in money, man. Oh, our deficit is not looking good. Income's, our debt's rising. Oh. GDP growth will increase by 0.1%. Yeah, I think I want to press all of these buttons. Divert funds towards construction. Yes. The Chinese state is one of the intense resource productions and of intense poverty. For years, the Japanese zaibatsu have stolen our resources in full view of corrupt politicians. Small Chinese resource extractors and contractors are bought up for measly sums, and monopolies are maintained with little to no oversight. All the resources are there for taking. The Chinese industries lack capabilities to effectively extract these resources and put them to good use. It is paramount that we begin the progress of It is of paramount importance to the progressing industrialization of China that we begin licensing and purchasing equipment from China in order to finally extract these materials that exist in our homeland. There we go. We seek the quality of the Japanese for now. I don't know if they'll give it to us though. They might give us garbage. And I can definitely see them do that. Yep. Expensive swindle. These tools were anything but, ranging from ball-peen hammers to old broken personal cameras. While our protests were raised instantly, the Japanese walked past us like we were a beggar on the streets. In typical Japanese fashion, they provided a curb bow, boarded the ship, and left with barely a word. Now we're left with nothing but some angry clients and broken equipment. And Adolf Hitler is dead. Oopsie doopsie. I think I want to conduct war games. Gives us bonuses to be used and trains up one of our leaders as well. Yeah, it seems like the entire world is collapsing. Burgundy declared war on the French state. German Civil War, by the way. I wonder who's gonna win. Let's dig deep. Our new excavation projects will require 30 billion per year to maintain, a cost which we can reduce with the profits we gain from mining and selling mineral resources. Sure thing, buddy. We're just gonna debt spiral like true Chads. Oh, the Second Philippine Republic has persevered. They're staying in the co-prosperity sphere. Yeah, I forgot. I never played as the South Africans or British or anyone like that. Maybe I should play as them one day. I wonder if they're actually interesting. We can get new income sources, yes, and the cost of maintaining our excavation projects will be reduced by $500 million. If the survey is successful, a new decision will be unlocked to exploit the surveyed resource deposit. Damn it, it seems that was unsuccessful. That's okay though. We'll figure something out. And we only make like 5 airplanes a year, that's nothing. How the hell are we supposed to stop Japan with that? These are garbage planes, by the way. Give me gold. No vein will be left untouched, indeed. But with that, I'm pretty sure that this is all the time I have left for today. We have started the long and arduous path towards getting China to become prosperous, to uniting all of the Chinese lands once again, and to kick out the Japanese back to where they belong. Our education is starting to go into the right direction, and now we are trying to fix our industry. TNO, long and arduous road. It's China, by the way, in case you were wondering. We gotta invest a lot of money in our stuff. And mostly I also want to reduce the maintenance of the excavation projects. The sooner the better, because those are expensive. I'd love to increase our GDP by 2.3 billion. Worst case, it still increases by 1.4. What's our poverty rate looking like right now? That's probably pretty much everyone's poor, and it's increasing pretty rapidly still. But I saw in here our poverty rate would decrease over time because of the rapid industrialization. So I definitely want to beeline it towards there. Speer has won, although Bormann seems to be the clear favorite. I should play as the Göring Germany again one day. Apparently you can turn off the nukes, as some people have said. So I think I could actually do the whole world conquest as Germany at some point. But I want to let some time pass by before I try it again, because I've done it only somewhat recently. I can invest some more. 1 billion in debt. It increases our GDP, not by that much. These expansions are currently losing projects. But the moment our GDP increases, these payouts will most likely increase. Conduct war games again. It improves our generals. Why would I not want to do that, right? Okay, this one I definitely want to do. It exploits the Fujian minerals, gives us GDP in Fuzhou, and some resources. And keep discovering more sites, please. As for this one, no, there's still a 40% chance that it's not going to be worth it. I'll wait a little bit. Adapt our resources as well. We'll get 1 extra billion in our GDP. You know what? I'll just press these buttons, man. Eventually they'll be done. By that time, our GDP will be increased a little bit more anyway. Now that we have access to steady supplies of resources, we can begin to adapt these raw products for our industrial needs. Industrialization with Chinese characters, huh? Mother, what are they doing over there? She tugged on her mother's sleeve. The clangs and bangs of construction had caught her attention. That's where the factories used to be, remember? Every day those big men would march straight into those buildings and not come out till sunset. Whatever happened to those people? The mother flashed her child a warm smile and nudged her away from the business district. Well, honey, they don't work there anymore. The family that used to own the land got bought out by someone else. But that's none of our business. So where do they work now? The mother sighed and looked her child in the eyes, brushing her out of the way. They probably don't have a job right now. Awesome. I'd love it if you never had to go to work. We could stay together forever. Well, and then starve. So I guess forever would be apt. All 3 before we can do these ones. Great. That's going to take us a while. One of the concessions given to China in the post-war period was the empowerment of the Chinese state with the separation of Chinese law from the Japanese system. Given that Japan technically recognizes us as a sovereign partner, our laws apply on our soil, no matter who it is that does that. It was on the premise that one of our labor inspectors dropped in on a few of the Japanese rubber plantations to observe labor conditions. What the inspector found did not please him, and following reports of multiple violations of Chinese labor laws, the plantation is being shut down. The fees we have pushed onto the Japanese conglomerate outweigh the land value, and in a legal deal for fee forgiveness, we have acquired rights to the fields. Nice. Steal our stuff back from them. Oh, can finally train an infantry brigade. Do we need one right now? I don't believe we do. We need armored personnel carrier chassis. Alright. Where are the APCs? There we go. Put them up top. I guess we'll build some of those in the future. We get 5 billion of income. Yes. I think I will take alternative higher education while we wait for our education standards to increase anyway. More resources? Hell yeah. We're getting into a lot of debt for this, but I feel like it's probably worth it. Divert funds into construction again. It's only temporarily. We're not really fighting anyone anytime soon, so we'll get a permanent bonus for the road towards industrialization. The noble Chinese peasant still lives in a primeval life that wouldn't be out of place in the old days of the Warlord era or even the Qing dynasty. If he does have any limited power running water, it is entirely locally sourced, often leading to inconvenient arrangements or a lack of arrangements. And so, the Chinese peasant lives without light to read or water to bathe. Ironically, the regionalist energy infrastructure means we power our oil wells and refineries with kerosene. Across the Yellow Sea, each Japanese citizen lives with power coursing through his own. Their energy grid, a nationally standardized system, produces energy that may be used on the other side of the empire. Great power lines fly across the shoulders of the country's roads. This lofty goals, once unthinkable, may now be attainable. We will see light everywhere. Now to get back to education for a little bit. Connect with an elite unit to serve, sure. I don't know what that means, but give him to me. Because I'm hoping it's a bit better than the infantry division in here. You know what, maybe invite a Kempe Tai for inspection. It's down to 20, right? It should still not increase, yeah. Because we're well within our means. Oh, yeah, we should have actually done this earlier. We have literacy reform census, and each year there'll be reports of it. After so much hard work, our bureaucrats have finally compiled the data. The demand for a private university is finally sufficient. For the longest time, China's best and brightest would opt out of studying domestically, attending the private universities of our adversaries instead. But that will change. Another billion. Thank you. Well, how has the product rollout fared? Very well, sir. The customers, that is to say the warlords, are immensely pleased with the product. A source of mine informed me that since his was installed, a certain one has not even turned it off a single time. And the engineers reports? Initially they faced many difficulties with designing a model capable of handling the Chinese heat without itself overheating. But by adapting several features on our already existing models, they report that the current design should be easily adaptable for mass production shortly. In fact, we may have a product for other tropical. What about the rest of the people? Pardon, sir? The Chinese people, the millions of potential customers that have watched as we fanned and cooled our overlords, and now probably wonder why they have to suffer in the heat. After all, I was one that ordered the survey of them under your name. Did you not receive the results yet? I have, sir. The results is not exceptionally positive. It seems we have somewhat contributed to a growth in social tension. With the project as a focal point, we may have to consider increased security. There's another way to consider this instead. That we have just received confirmation on a very high demand of our air conditioners by a very large consumer base. If we cannot sell to the customer, why not sell to the local government that tax all their income away anyway? We can sell it to them as a both public service and a means of reducing local unrest. Local unrest that we cause, sir. Details, man. Details. Is it Borman that one? Actually, I didn't check. I think it is, right? Yep. It usually is. Borman or Spear. Our deficit is only 2.5%. That's actually great. As we modernize our industry, it is easy to forget perhaps that most important resources in industrialization, the common worker. The common worker spends 8 to 12 hours a day working, gets paid, has a home, many a family, and at present has nothing to provide them with anything extra. This uncomfortably sad reality pushes a solution: build urban factories that produce goods exclusively for civilian consumption. Though not explicitly viable for, providing a family with the opportunity to buy toiletries or clothing improves their quality of life and improves the workers' ability to work. Let's get investing. We go for our military. I think I want to go for the research facilities first. Spend 1 billion to increase our GDP by 2.1 billion. Hell yeah. Why would we not do that? How much is that duck in the window? So much has been lost in the years between Japanese invasion to the present day. Not only people, but experiences, opportunities lost forever, robbed by power-hungry politicians. No more is that more apparent than the dilapidated remains of the toy factory in Nanjing. Long ago, the factory would churn out children's playthings, puzzles, dolls, and flagship products. The wooden duck. The war is long over, and it's high time that joy returns to China. We will give them all wooden ducks. A farmer in Shandong carries 2 leaking buckets of water 2 miles from the nearest well back to his farm, pouring the water into his cattle trough and turning around to make a second trip. A woman hurries home through the lightless streets of Nanjing, navigating by memory as she reaches her apartment. She lights a candle so that she may have some light to see by. These scenes would not have been out of place in China in 1750, and yet they happened yesterday. The people of China work their fields by hand and plow, much as they did 300 years ago. Modern forms of communication are non-existent outside of the cities. For centuries, China was at the forefront of scientific discovery. But that will change. We will bring light to everyone, and we'll give that peasant some buckets as well. Without holes, even. Innovation gain, yeah. I think I want to start with that. I'm guessing there's also an innovation. Yep, there we go. Our innovation will also need to improve, kind of like our education system. Our first elite unit. Where is he? What does he look like? Okay. It's not bad by any means. Monthly innovation gain. I think that's more important than anything else. And I think we're close. Yep, education efficiency improvement. What do you want? Political power gain? Production efficiency capacity, maybe. And then here we pay once again. Just keep paying. The quicker we increase our GDP, sure, we take on a lot of debt. The quicker we increase it, the more profitable this becomes. Because the cost stays the same. The GDP growth will increase. Oh, and economic integration to Yunnan region. The deal was good. Very good. Excellent, in fact. Exclusive rights to the mineral exports from Yunnan would be an incredible boost to the economy. Iron, zinc, lead, and ever-valuable coal would flow in vast quantities. Hell yeah. Green line go up. But red line slightly also go up. I'm not a big fan of that, but Our debuffs for our research capabilities is also half. They used to be at minus 50%, now it's minus 25%. Increases GDP by 20% in the Sichuan region. I want to know how much that is. This one? What's our current GDP in here? That's like 0.2, so 200 million GDP increase. It's a loss, but we also get oil. Commission some more, please. And like I said, it's all an investment into the future, our future. 10 months ago, Li Jie was a recently unemployed man who had spent his entire life in an ammunition factory and was looking for a new opportunity. 6 months ago, he successfully rebuilt his first generator. Today is his first day as a repairman at an apartment complex that recently installed electric lighting and heating. With help of the Japanese instructors and a not insignificant amount of learning by trial and error, the first class of Chinese technicians is starting to show real promise. Already, we are relying less on the Japanese to install and repair new devices for us. Instruction manuals printed in Mandarin are beginning to replace those printed in Japanese. Our foreign guides seem surprised and even a little dismayed at how quickly their students are progressing. Steps are being taken to further integrate these newly minted technological specialists into our modernization program. We will no longer rely on Japan for progress. Exactly. While our training schools have helped create the first generation of Chinese technicians, it's not enough. As Chinese industry continues to modernize and expand, the demand for skilled laborers will increase until the government is unable to afford to educate all of our workers our economy requires. This has become a problem much sooner than we anticipated, as already more of our citizens are applying to the training program that we can make room to teach. To avoid creating an educational bottleneck, it has been proposed that instead of training all the workers ourselves, we subsidize the creation of technical education programs at Chinese universities and businesses. Nice. We're gonna get an infusion of 2.2 billion. There we go. Lovely to see. While the current use is somewhat limited, especially in China, where electricity is a rare luxury, there's no denying that computers will be instrumental in technological and societal development in the coming decades. Our clerks and accountants spend weeks combing through disorganized and often incomplete records and running numbers to provide reports and answers a computer could generate in a few hours. To avoid falling even further behind the modern world than we already have, we must begin implementing computing technology into the 5 modernization plans immediately. Luckily, there are several Japanese companies who have offered to sell their computer designs plans to us in return for commitment to use the newly built machines to improve agricultural production and manufacturing output. Of course, once we have designs, there's nothing to stop us from using them for other purposes. But we appreciate it. It's about time Japan does something good for us. With the introduction of computer technology in China has greatly accelerated our path to modernization, it has also exposed some oversights in the plan. Computers are difficult to build and maintain, and this problem is only worsened by the lack of modern construction equipment available in China. So let's get back to what we need to improve our production, to get better computers, to get better bureaucracy. It's just like an endless cycle. Additional manpower and units from our emergency reserves will be called. Oh, sure. So we get to keep them, I guess. But I'm guessing they'll also be atrocious. We can call it an infantry division. Why not, right? Yeah. Our new computers have helped us identify multiple problems within our agricultural production. While there are countless small issues hampering our farmers, they're all connected by one common cause. Despite the fact that it makes up the largest sector of our economy, Chinese agriculture has not significantly progressed in centuries. While farmers in other nations use tractors, chemical fertilizers, and water pipelines, our farmers still rely on horse-drawn plows, manure, and primitive irrigation systems. If China is to retain its position as the sphere's primary food supplier, it is of the utmost importance that we begin the industrialization of our agriculture immediately. Alright, we'll make it happen, man. New farming techniques indeed. It'll also increase our GDP, very important. Actually exploit Hebei minerals and do another survey. The more resources we can find, the better. Indian reunification war. Ooh, interesting. I wonder who's gonna win. I do hope the Republic of India will win more than anything. I'd prefer a weaker co-prosperity sphere. In Henan, pipes designed to water crops are being used as fence posts and improvised weather vanes. In Fujian, farmers have treated their tractors to cattle ranchers that use the machines to herd their stock. One particularly inventive individual has been burning bags of fertilizer to heat his stable and, if there's any left, his bath water. Such a waste and misuse of expensive machines must be brought to an end as soon as possible. It's quite interesting. I mean, they don't know the benefit just yet, so once they figure out how beneficial it is and how much money they can make, they'll start using the bags of poop properly. Further industrial expansion, of course. It's still a loss. We spend $1 billion to get zero point 0.7. But like I said, our GDP needs to improve. The higher it is, the higher it'll climb. Oh, we do have an extremely high deficit now, which is not great. We're ready to be upgraded to the next level soon to get better loan offers. This one still isn't really worth it. I'll click it anyway. Our poverty rate's still atrocious, by the way. Just so you know. We can be more than just Japan's breadbasket. Everything will be produced in China, man. Everything. Oh, there's some extra units that we made. Cute. I'm willing to bet they're absolutely garbage. They're garbage. Lee gazed through the narrow streets before him, struggling to recall the city which he had called his childhood home. Cobbled streets and wooden walls danced behind his eyes, but it all slipped through his mind like a sieve, hazy like so many other memories of his forgotten childhood. But now he was back in Beijing. Worlds apart from the sleepy rural village his mother had fled with him to. Ancient wooden structures and stone carved by years of use still surrounded Lee. But here and there he could spot a tower of glass and steel, the first children of a new China and the gateway to a new life for Lee and his family. Lee marched on, grasping onto his youngest son's hand so that the flowing mess of people would not sweep him away. The family stayed close together. Lee's wife, his 3 children, and ancient grandfather, all struck by the size and pace of the city, beset by 1,000 vendors and shoved by 1,000 more migrants just like themselves. It was the first time any of them could remember any city larger than a market town. Their new home overawed them, but it was all so much opportunity to Lee. His sons would not suffer the same humiliation as him, and his family would not be tied down in the rural backwater which the government was already leaving behind. Now here in Beijing, Lee would set a new path. Here, he would not break his back over a plow. Here he would rise, where his sons would become the new men of the new China. The only question was where to start. Welcome to Beijing, our new home indeed. But Congo has been defeated. Nice. The OFN has all of Africa pretty much. At least for now. The Dominion of Pakistan also declared war, but I don't think they'll survive. China may be moving towards industrialization, but we will always be an agricultural nation at heart. As our factories modernize, so too will our farms, ranches, and orchards. Those were the words of the president of the Chinese Agricultural Workers Alliance. We will reap the rewards of modernization as well. Increase our GDP by 2 billion again. Yes. Grandfather, stay with Young. Neither of you can continue on like this. I said I would help you in the city, Lee. Are you telling me to lie to you? To go back to on my word? No. In the dim electric light of their ramshackle home, Lee gazed at the sleeping bodies of his family, tangled up in each other's arms on the ground. Beijing had not been kind to them, and trying to adjust to the life as a street vendor has taken its toll on body and soul. Lee was no stranger to hard work, nor was his family. Forcing a living out of the Chinese land had given all but the youngest hands of iron. But even so, Beijing had punished them for their naivety, and none more so than Lee's ancient grandfather. The old man's legs were twitching. He had started to cough, and there were sores on his arms which refused to heal. His body, which had survived who knew how many years, was breaking down, even if his stubbornness was alive and well. You must stay here, grandfather. I did not come here to kill you. What about your granddaughter, the kids? You think they want to see you? What about them? I was here when the emperor died. You think I'm just gonna fall to this? Stop this insolence. I'm still able to walk. You just make sure that you do your part as well. Do it for them. Alright. Hope that family turns out okay. I really like this about TNO in general. You get the overarching macroeconomics, but you also have the stories of random people, random families sprinkled throughout. It's nice to put faces on the changes that you make. Construction, of course we will do that. More construction speed. How's that looking these days, actually? The construction speed at least is pretty dang good. The output, not so much. But, you know, one step at a time. We got more units? When did that happen? I mean, I gotta be careful not to go over the limit to increase the suspicion of the Japanese. And look at our debuff. It's minus 18 now. We are definitely getting somewhere. Exploit some more land and commission more geological surveys. telling you, we are gonna go into massive amounts of debt. Our current credit rating is good, and it's also rising by what? By 1 point, because we are at peace. You look like you could use a pork bun. A man who had not eaten jianbing is never a full man. Why don't you have a dumpling in your hand? Li smiled through the sweat of his face. He had found it, a place for his business. The city was growing both upwards and outwards. His eldest son, Wei, remarked that it was just like him. Every day it seemed another inch, another pound was added. He was already 14, older by far than the 9-year-old Jie or the 3-year-old Yong. And he had taken to Beijing well, almost too well. He had begun to talk like a native. His gait had become attuned to the booming city, picking up its pace. And he had even gained friends in the sons of the workers and engineers like Li sold to. And what better place for his own business to grow than at the bleeding edge of Beijing, where hundreds of laborers are bussed in to construct factories, housing blocks, new streets and malls. Li had not been the only street vendor to tag along the new wave of industrialization, but perhaps he had found the perfect spot, right off the crossroad and just close enough to hundreds of hungry laborers sent to build a new China. Life was still very hard. Li, despite himself, would dream of the open and green fields, the crisp, still air of a world waking up. The city that he had learned never sleeps, and it felt that neither did he. Before the sun rose, Li would leave his crumpled and leaking room, stepped over the still sleeping bodies of the children. For hours he would run across the city or stand over the boiling oil of his craft, and he would not return to his rented housing until the sun had set and the night was lit up. It occurred to him that he had never seen the stars in the Beijing night sky, but still, it was life. A routine to stand by, a craft to master, and a near-perfect spot of the city in which to practice it. His wife even whispered in Li's ear that she may be pregnant. Another son, no doubt. Yes, sir. At long last, Li could stand on his own 2 feet. While we have made great strides in our journey to make China technologically self-sufficient, it's not enough that we have personnel with knowledge and experience to pull China into the modern age. We must have plans to build the technology we need. The Japanese technicians we have hired have brought some of their blueprints with them, but the other designs will have to be acquired from Japanese companies. Our contracts in Japan have managed to exploit the economic crisis, playing the various corporations and conglomerates off of each other by pledging support to both the Zaibatsus and the Keiretsus. In return for various important designs, we have been able to produce all the plans we need. We play both sides. That's how we always come out on top, indeed. Pakistan wins independence war. Ooh. But will the Azad Hind government win it as well? Or like reclaim all of India? I don't think so. Li had seen bayonets duller than the eyes of the 3 who arrived today. Scarcely 2 meters from the spot Elise had been for the past 2 months. A new group set up shop, young, sharp, and most of all, dangerous in Li's eyes. It was early morning and the cool mist still rolled through the streets and not yet dispelled by the traffic lights. By the light traffic, rather. Li set his face to stone and allowed himself to hope that they were merely mistaken, that his apprehension was merely from his fatigue. He approached the trio as they were finishing unfolding their stand. What do you want? Snapped the tallest of the 2 men. I've been in this spot over a month. This is my spot. Everyone knows this. The shorter of the 2 snorted. What does this peasant want, she? He says we're in his spot. Wants us to leave. Well, I didn't see you here this morning. Find your own spot. Li was shocked. He had expected them to be rude, as so many city people were. But this, Li purposely looked away from the woman and back towards she. This is my spot. Ask anyone, even the construction workers. What is wrong with you? They should have gone here a bit faster, you peasant migrants. Always move so slow. But that's your loss. Li had no work. His ancient grandfather came to bring him back to reality. It's not worth it, Li. For now, let's find another spot. They want to see you do good, but never better than them. We'll be back with revenge. We will call Batman in, break their backs for jaywalking or something like that. I don't know. Yes, invest into private businesses as well. We can double our money, but even the 40% chance we get like a loss of 300 million, which is not the worst. The more often we click those buttons, the higher our GDP gets, the more likely it is that we will profit each time. The first annual literacy census reported that 98% of students passed the first nationwide literacy benchmark. Though by no means a difficult test, these results signify the success of government literacy programs. Hell yeah. The Chinese Minister of Finance was a diminutive man, thick-rimmed glasses accenting his face, and a lack of stature. Komai took an immediate dislike for the man for his appearance, but he could stomach it for now. Zhou Fohai was known as a thoroughly corruptible man, which was why he now sat in the halls of the Guangdong's great and mighty, gazing neutrally over his glasses at Komai himself. "Do you have any idea why you're here?" Komai began with an equally neutral question. "I think I have some idea, but I'd like to hear it from your mouth before I jump to any conclusions." "Good. He wasn't that dumb, at least. I hear that China is replete with unfulfilled construction contracts, just waiting for the right bidder. Hitachi will take these contracts and will bring with it an arsenal of industrial equipment, both heavy and light, ready to be sold in bulk to any wanting government. In exchange, you personally will receive a cut of the profits," and the check slid smoothly over the wooden tabletop, a sizable number printed clearly in firm strokes of black ink. Zhou glanced down. "I think the Republic would be quite amenable to such a proposition, one that is beneficial for China as a whole. With our purchase of modern construction equipment, China's industry has found itself in an interesting position. While we have all of the required tools and materials to begin manufacturing advanced products on a large scale, the only plans we have are those we have acquired from the Japanese, and our technicians are only trained to operate Japanese machines and produce Japanese goods. While we may be able to manufacture Japanese products just as well as they can themselves, we will not be fully technologically independent until we make our own Chinese tech that surpasses theirs. Our poverty rate will rapidly improve, and we get 2 billion in GDP again." For weeks, the trio and Li had been in an undeclared war, and Li could not help but feel that he was on the losing end. First, his son had betrayed him. He had claimed that he was going to run over the market to buy the lettuce, and asked for money to buy it, just like many other days, and Li waited for him for hours through the hot midday. He sent out his wife to see what had become of him, but he returned empty-handed. He had no other choice but to close his stand early and send the entire family out to find the boy, behind some wall smoking with his friends. The money nowhere to be seen. And then, just 2 days ago, grandfather had finally admitted that he needed rest, that his wizened legs were pushed too far. But today was different. Lee's wife gave to him, eyes full of tears, as he had rarely seen before. "What happened? Why are you crying?" I just wanted to talk with the lady. I told her I was pregnant, and what did she do? She called me an ugly peasant whore and said China did not need any more children from me." It was not long before another member came to see the commotion. "You get away from her," she came to him, tearing the woman away and striking Lee across the face. There was no going back now. They both went at each other with violence. Lee had torn out a chunk of Xi's hair. She kicked him in the groin. She was taller than him, so Lee kept to the ground, rolling the two of them through the filth of the street. At length, Lee started to gain advantage. While a human ring formed around the two, the quarrel quickly turned into a spectator sport. With a grunt of strength learned on the fields of China, Lee managed to buck Xi off of him and pinned the man to the ground, pummeling his head. Gasping for breath, Lee tightened his grip as Xi weakly squirmed beneath him. When from behind he heard a cry, "You bastard!" Lee turned around just in time for the short one to bash his head in with a metal plate. A woman screamed. Lee fell to his head, stunned. He felt the blood gush from his mouth and saw shattered teeth beneath him. Another heavy blow to the spine sent Lee to his stomach. With a swift and precise crack, Lee found himself back on the ground as the police beat him with nightsticks. "My sons, what will become of my sons?" Ooh, 2 billion again. Yes, we need to get there. Lee has lost track of time a long time ago, or at least what felt long ago. No sun or moon would reach into his cell, only the light of a flickering bulb hanging from a dusty string, and no clock to measure the time. There was little for Lee to do other than nurse his wounded body and worry, always worry, like a tiger pacing around and round in his cage until it drops from exhaustion. What of Young? What of the grandfather? What would become of his stand? His wife had only just seemed settled, and children inside her, no. Could Wei survive? Would he abandon his family again in time of need? Minutes into hours, hours into days. Lee had lost track of time a long time ago. Oh yeah, I forgot. I had to take a break. I forgot I will regret this event. Whoops. Lee woke up with a clang of a baton on the bars of his cage. "You, time to go." Right then, off you go. Lee blinked through the sun, Squinting at the guard. What? The guard frowned. You heard me. You're free to go. And with that, Li pushed out of the gate, which closed behind him. He was free. In the days, Li wandered the sweltering streets, lost in a section of Beijing he had never seen before. At length he had caught on, finding first a landmark, then a street which he knew. Why don't you have a pork bun in your hands? You look like a man who could use a Yangbing. There in front of him, with a hachimaki rope bound around his head, was his son Wei. He was working the stall alone like a madman, baking, packaging, and selling all at once. He had rings around his eyes and sores on his wrists. His clothing was filthy, but there he was, and there was the food stand, all safe. The trio nowhere to be seen. Li felt tears welling in his eyes as he beheld his eldest son. As Li walked up to the stand, Wei finally caught sight of him. Wei stopped what he was doing, as if struck, leaving the eggs to burn on the plate. The sight of his father, thin, bruised, and weakened, was a shock. Wei told Li of what happened while he was in jail. How he had told his friends who had told their fathers of what the trio had done to Li and his mother, of how they and the other workers started to boycott the trio's stand, no matter how low they set their prices, how grandfather had forced himself to work through his illness until he could no longer stand, and how his mother had grown heavier and heavier until she too took ill. All this and more came spilling off of the 14-year-old's mouth. The nightmare was over and the day had come. As the two embraced, Ali felt his worries of the months past fall from his back. It would not be easy, but he and his family survived, and surely the worst had passed. For now, for the first time in months, Li could not think about the future. He simply was happy to be free. Yeah, give me that money. Our GDP needs to increase even more. Increase our technological... Yes, it will be once again another billion, but our miscellaneous research costs decreased by 1.4, so it's actually a win. We need more political power though, goddamn. But I think with that is pretty much all the time I have left for today. We've made our economy grow pretty tremendously. The green line is going up constantly. 72 billion GDP. I think we started with around like half of that. We're doing great, but we still have a long way to go. As 1966 hits us, we will be one step closer towards being an economic powerhouse ready to rival the Japanese. Our economy is doing great currently. Our debt situation is not the best, but, you know, green line go up. That's all that matters at the moment. China will persevere and become the global economic superpower. We just have to make sure it doesn't collapse along the way. In the meantime, expand state-owned industries. It almost pays for itself. I think after this, we will switch over towards mayhaps starting up military affairs so we can get that monthly modernization rate improved. So if I remember correctly, at some point in the future, Long Yun will rise again, like the gamer he is, and we need to stop him. Oh, yeah, there's the National Protection Army. We kind of got some poopy leaders, apparently. But that'll be okay, I'm sure. Let's prepare by, you know, putting our army on the border. Just in case. There it is, the Mad King of the Southwest. In Yunnan, a terrible king has arisen. In a previous time, almost feels like forever ago, Long Yun was the undisputed lord and commander of the Yunnan province. His prestige among the people beyond compare, and his allegiance to the old republic firm. But as the old republic and the old order disintegrated around him under the heel of the invader, so too did his maliciousness. At the end of the war, he submitted, but not before bequeathing his authority upon Lu Han, his cousin, for he himself was too influential a man to be deposed outright, merely stepping down and playing second fiddle within the reformed government. Lu Han, unlike his predecessor, immediately saw the merits to our enterprise. More and more, he began instituting reforms that, despite supposedly promoting economic exploitation and exacerbating tensions between the Han and the Yi within the province, injected our 5 modernizations with renewed vigor by funneling a steady stream of finances, material, and above all, unwavering loyalty to our steelworks. But it was not meant to be. For reasons yet unknown to us, Long Yun, the cynic rabbit dog, has returned in force in a shocking coup. We will have to put him down permanently. Friend turned foe. You hate to see it. Damn it, and just as I was trying to start the modernization of our army, it gets cancelled. Now we'll have to deal with the Mad King. Located so far away from the historic centers of the Chinese population along the coast, the land of abundance that Sichuan is dangling between control and anarchy. Even the invaders could not stifle the guerrillas in the area, only causing further strife, leaving a power vacuum present until this very day. China's history teaches us that Sichuan is too valuable an asset to leave at the wayside, and this lesson shall not go unlearned by Gao Zhongwu. And so the calm before the storm, and the chance to prove ourselves the legal ruler of China. Start by sending weapons. We'll establish a curfew. They have 0 influence, actually. Send weapons. How many weapons can I send? Oh, we'll have like 450. No, 400. Send them in. So far, we're doing well, right? Let's put some more. Prepare for the worst. Ask for military freedom so that we can actually deal with the enemy. We do have some trucks. I wouldn't mind motorizing my supplies at least. An elite unit will be activated for service. Hell yeah. Keep forgetting to do the focuses, god damn it. Probably wasted a lot of my stuff. Sichuan sides with Gao Zhongwu. We've succeeded. Secured the Chengdu from the hands of the Hanjian government. Army units with orders to take positions along the border already begin to move in. I mean, I've invested a lot of shit in there. Secured Sichuan from the enemies, and depending on our support level, we'll receive military and industrial bonuses from the province, while also boosting our legitimacy. Should lock down movement to protect our people, sure. When Gao Zhongwu received a missive from Long Yun and read it, he could not but treat it as a direct insult. He had devoted everything to China, only to receive such utter bullshit from an old, senile dotard, whose words were predicated on delusions on a good day. Mr. President, I implore you to see reason. Stop the exploitation. Be just and fair to the people. Worst of all, Allineant, I implore you to redeem yourself by setting yourself against the Japanese oppression for our freedom and yours. Was this how the old ghost of Yunnan dared to treat the last beacon of hope in China? These people in Kunming were delusional, that was that. They were mentally capable of understanding that his plan was the only route to a strong, prosperous, free China, but his modernization progress made reality clear. So long as China was protected, no cost ever mattered. There's only one choice, one response for Gao to make to Long Yun. Long Yun, this is your final chance to surrender. What do you mean no? I mean no, that's it. That is the message in its entirety. President Gao Zhongwu raised his muddy scrap of paper, yet higher for all to see. A cacophony of murmurs and sideways glances erupted among the sea of heads before him, a singular no, greeting the hundreds of squinted eyes and inquisitive gazes. Is there any mentions of our terms? None whatsoever. How do you suggest we handle this then? Perhaps a negotiation proposal with softened terms. Surely a gesture of goodwill will let the old general see reason. Need I remind you, gentlemen, that the goodwill has already failed us. With a slam of the podium, Gao strode to the center of the hall, booming voice reverberating between the walls and squashing the baubles into silence. That ultimatum, that with which institution had already poured enough senseless hours into, was in itself more goodwill and amnesty than what that delusional fool ever deserved. Yet still, he repays us with this, a singular no. Hadn't he made himself clear enough? Gentlemen, how much more dithering, how much more misguided benevolence must we pay to this lost cause before we decide that enough is enough? Therefore, it is to my hope that our honorable legislators will set on drafting a formal declaration of war at once. Yeah, we got no choice but to crush. Just a shame we can't really keep improving our nation. Can I see perchance how much my guy has? I cannot. I do believe I have yeah. Send them in. We'll build a spy network. Maybe that'll give us better information. One last ultimatum. The mad dog bellows and tugs on his leash. We shall grant him one chance to submit, like the lowly mongrel he is. The Republic of China unlocks a new crisis tree with this. Okay. And now we can set a state of emergency, increasing the army size ceiling to 105. Yeah, let's start with evacuation. Keep our people safe. Keep them hidden. Keep them safe. Hello? Can I not make a... I apparently cannot make a front line here. Arrival of military equipment from Japan. Nice. Let's slow down a little bit. We should be able to break down the enemy somewhat quickly in key tiles. I don't know why I cannot draw a front line there. Should be able to. Final conflict. Battle has begun in earnest. What began as only a series of short skirmishes across the Yunnanese-Chinese border has exploded into a nationwide conflict with no end in sight. Both leaders are keenly aware of the issues of dragging this conflict out would cause a Japanese intervention would automatically spell doom for Long Yun's dream and could lead to significant issues for Gao Zhongwu as well. Alright, let's see. Goddamn, everything just collapsed, huh? There we go. Don't let them go anywhere. We got our first encirclement. Perfect. That didn't take us too long, actually. Okay, now we can make the front line, actually. Good. I've given up on the encirclements. The last one sadly fell apart, but I'm moving in. And the Japanese equipments keep arriving. Very happy with that. Regardless, it seems like the National Protection Army, they're not going to be able to hold out against us for that long. Got some fighters, we got some CAS. Use the Air Force, please. It's not much, but since they don't have much of an Air Force, we should be fine moving in with them. Oh yeah, they're falling apart. How are the casualties looking, actually? Slightly in their favor, we don't care too much, though. We got more manpower to spare after all. Oh, and the second annual literacy consensus reveals that, thanks to aggressive education program targeting the poor and working class, literacy has somewhat significantly increased throughout all of China, from about 10% to an exceeding 50%. Alright. Can't wait for the next progress reports then. Once upon a time, the princes and peasants alike of China's inner provinces, heart and soul of the nation, found themselves boiling away in the humid summer heat, unable to do naught but pray for rain. Oh yeah, we got air conditioners now. Hell yeah. That's how you know the nation's going places. Oh yeah, it's 100% in our favor, but they don't seem to be losing any... Well, they don't seem to be suffering any problems. Oh, for the first time after mornings of gory charges, afternoons of lead rain and nights of artillery guesswork, the guns have finally fallen silent. The silence is everywhere. In the Yuan, legislators hold their collective breaths and frantically read reports. In the streets, the people shush each other and turn their ears towards the radios. On the front, soldiers hold their guns almost as gently as they sob. The realization, a possibility almost too alien to comprehend. The war is over. We've won. China has won. The bureaucrats set to work. They would wail and weep in their own time. For now, they labored, transforming victory into something more legally tangible. Something like the Yunnan province. Japan couldn't say no. The Chinese had won the Rising Sun's respect and perhaps fear. And so China is victorious, and Yunnan will be placed under Chinese administration. With that, the dragons rises. The national state of emergency is over. We should... the army size ceiling will return to its normal level. We should disarm any extra troops during the southwestern insurrection. Or we might gain the ire. Our expanded military freedom will be restricted again while we regain control over our provincial governors. Okay, do we actually have 91? No, we had 80 still, so it was still fine. Oh, please press these buttons again. I know we're suffering massive attritional issues. Get our units back out of there. Okay, now let's do some military affairs, eh? We're lacking so much political power. The military situation of the Nanjing nationalist government is very worrying. Military discipline is a little more than an ornament. Although disciplinary supervisors have been established, they always turn a blind eye to violations of discipline. Seeing and saying nothing. Corruption in the army and the military is common. Officers using their positions to make a tidy profit, aligning their own pockets with wealth and disregarding their work. Except for some elite troops, many units have serious lack of regular training. The military's will to fight is very weak too, with almost all soldiers being afraid of war and having no intention to fight or die for their country. Japan also restricts the development of military technology. They are only willing to sell less equipment that is for them already depreciated and backward. If we try to develop independently, they will throw up obstacles at every turn, or even have our scientists disappear into thin air. Okay, so we have... our small army will get yeeted out, but we still cannot train any extra units. Military modernization is completely decrepit. Sheesh. Well, let's get to it. This is our academic base is finally starting to improve, huh? Oh yeah, our credit got rated down. That's not good. We're acceptable these days. Now we're falling. Let's do some tax cuts. Would that work? Not really. Or not tax cuts. Expenditure cuts. I think I need to go back towards... Well, I'll do a couple more maybe. Anything that'll help us increase our monthly modernization of military? Yeah, there we go. Our GDP growth will increase in here. Yeah, we definitely need to go for both our technology and our industrialization. Historically, the Hanyang arsenal has always been the center of the Chinese armaments. As the war closed and the Japanese asserted their control over Zhongguo, the greater forges and banks of the arsenal dimmed, and so China traded rice for guns and wheat for uniforms. The troops languished with inaction, and as China's arms industry seemed to take its final breath, Hanyang began to churn. We are making the first truly Chinese rifle. We're at 100% poverty, it's still increasing somehow. We definitely need to fix that. Expand these factories, it'll give us GDP growth of 0.5%, not bad. Dear brother, as you know, I am currently proudly serving my country in securing her borders from foreign barbarians. It's quite easy when you possess the strong weapons, though I used to fire a Japanese rifle. It worked, and for that I was grateful, but recently we've been resupplied with so-called Chinese rifles that I couldn't even call moderately successful. They jam, they backfire, they whine, and they snap. I wish to see our nation grow strong again, but how can we do that with shit like this? What do they wish for me to do beyond hitting my enemies with this rifle like a club? Well, look, it's a work in progress, alright? You can't expect us to be an economic powerhouse and a military powerhouse this quickly. What we have is not enough. The rifles that come off our lines are good, but they are simply not enough. The planes can maneuver very well, but they're not enough. We need more of everything. The effect of manning the factories' national split will be increased. What's it currently at? 5% output of factories. Yeah, it could definitely stand to be increased. Keep exploding our population. Look at that, we're only increasing by 0.03% poverty rate, even though literally everyone in this nation is poor. Surely at some point we'll be able to fix that, huh? Diary entry 432. They offered me an incredible opportunity to work in exchange for reduced time. I was innocent, you know. All I did was steal some cabbage. But I can't fight the government. I'll take any chance I get to leave this hellhole. Apparently I'm due to work in this arsenal in Wuhan, wherever that is. Hell yeah. You go, girl. Be exploited. 8 billion more in debt? God damn. This is gonna be rough for us. Once again, strikes have assembled, and once again the military has dispersed them. Workers claim that the legal maximum amount of sick days is cruel and inconsiderate, but these are dissidents. Alright, whatever you say, buddy. As long as you are there to be exploited by us, you will work for the greater good of China. We're so close to getting a new level of education. I'm gonna go straight into political power gain, so I can gain more political power to get more decisions in. Faster industrialization. Let's go. We're close to finishing off one of our branches of modernization. If we ever wish to compete with the Japanese, we need to speed up our industrialization. I mean, we're doing that pretty much. In fact, we're close to the end of it. Our poverty will be also reduced further, with the GDP growth increasing by 0.15%. What's this? Establish the Wuhan. Our GDP growth will increase by 0.5%. Yeah. Let this pass us by. Up and down China, the mechanical hums and clanks of industry sound out. In such a short amount of time, we've expanded our resource exploitation, bolstered our energy production, all to fuel our militarization campaign. Only China can control her future. Indeed. All across China, we have fostered groupings of powerful industrial communities. Whether they provide resources, arms, electricity, or consumer products, they are all working with incredible efficiency for the betterment of China. The Yangtze will feed us all. The problem with the Japanese breadbasket will be significantly reduced, and we can increase our technological self-sufficiency to level 2. Not that it really does much, but still. An expedition to look at natural resources in the upper Shashimiao formation has today uncovered a most wonderful surprise. Near the bank of the Tuo River, members of a team were searching for signs of possible oil deposits, only to be shocked by the discovery of a near complete set of dinosaur fossils. Hell yeah! They belong in a museum. The third annual literacy consensus reports that not only has the literacy rate continued to steadily rise, but there has also been a sharp increase in numbers of domestic literary publications. Once average citizens, now imbued with the power of written words, have taken it upon themselves to author books about nearly anything and everything. Although these new classics are understandably not as of yet comparable to the Japanese or Western literature, they have become incredibly popular within China, and some have even attained foreign recognition and international renown. A notable example is Orange Rain, an adventure novel written by a rural gardener concerning a man and his monkey's journey to the edge of the world. Okay. I feel like it's a reference to something, but I'm not quite sure. I was guessing maybe like Dragon Balls or Wukong. Maybe that was our Korean man. But I'm more leaning towards a Dragon Balls reference. It'd be funny if Chinese man wrote it. A decade ago, China was called the breadbasket of the sphere to the Japanese. Our agrarian economy was of particular use and they remained consistent customers to our millet and rice exports. Even then, our production was sure that the Japanese men in Hawaii ate their bento over Chinese brown rice, much the same as the Japanese youth grown up on Chinese rice in their porridge. The Japanese would eat our beef, drink our tea, crack our eggs, and slice our bread. We have long controlled the sack. It is what made us useful to the Japanese, but now we are forging our sword. Pickaxes, now made in China, crack against iron. Furnaces smelt the iron. Technicians turn it to steel. China is stronger than ever. Japan better watch out, otherwise I might have to smack him down. Now with that, everything will be made in China, significantly boosting our GDP with 8 billion. Damn, our poverty rate's still atrocious though. That's not great. I was hoping it would go down, but still rising. A boy rides his bike down the beaten muddy trails of Luzon. It is not a new bike, but it works. He received it for his birthday. He's happy. Underneath the seat, made in China is pressed into the steel. The village nurses a beer as he looks out into the jungle of Borneo. In his lap, he cradles a hunting rifle. He likes it because it is reliable and hardly misses. Carved into the stock is made in China. In the Tokyo Mitsukoshi, an impatient husband waits for his wife to decide on a new rice cooker. She's torn between two, one red and one blue. She does not want to buy something that will break after a few months' usage. It does not matter which one she chooses. Or chooses, I guess, as both are stamped with Made in China. A conductor on the Thai-Burma Link Railway smokes a cigarette as he watches the engine dials. The boiler could use a bit more heat, so he signals the engineer to shovel some more coal in. The shovel, the coal, and the engine, all made in China. With that, one of the branches is complete. Two are almost done. After defeating the vile Long Yun, we still haven't annexed the Yunnan Reconstruction Authority, but I'm pretty sure we will eventually. That being said, we're still trying to make our country a better place by modernizing one of the pillars. Made in China, complete. We're going to continue with some military stuff, I think. Get monthly modernization as well. We can definitely commission more geological surveys. Divert even more. Every decision in here that we can take, we will take. Once again, another 0.5% increase. We're slowly building it up. Oh, actually, pay 4 billion and get 9 billion. Very much worth it. Now, it's still going to take us a while, but we've got time. As Gao Zhongwu walked in the staff office, he spotted several of their best experts over their last military exercise on a chalkboard. Gao waved his hand to signal Chief of Staff Bao Wenyue, who turned to salute him to continue on with his presentation. This exercise is theatrical, in the sense that if the blue team representing our national army opens with a series of coordinated attacks and rapid advancements, we can confidently assume successful breach from the Yantai to the Haihe lines. Any following operation, however, would be exceedingly difficult. The red team representing the IGA can bring to bear superior air and naval support. Suicidal counterattacks are to be expected even if we could possess superiority in numbers and technology. Any relief units and reinforcements will be bogged down along the Yantai line. Essentially, what do we go for? Look forward or stay with the traditions? And I feel like we'll pioneer cutting-edge military theory unique to China. The decision may greatly enhance our armed forces, yet only time can tell whether our endeavors will succeed. That is what I'm going to go for. I think I'm going to go out with the old as well. It will slightly increase suspicion the Japanese have for us, but that's okay. We're at a good level at the moment anyway. And of course, expand state-owned industries. All of these decisions, as far as I can tell, are now worth it. Even the worst one, we only lose 50 million. This one, we guarantee turn a profit in GDP. This one, not so much, but that's because it's not going to improve our GDP. Rather, it's going to improve our societal stuff. Or our what are they called? Yeah, societal development, which we desperately need. Emphasizing modern war and experimental warfare strategies always begins in the combat simulation room. Whether their doctrine is realistic or not, in situations where field testing is not an option, it can often be brought through the combat simulation room for preliminary testing, according to the outcomes, and given doctrine can be reevaluated and tweaked, improving our overall training efficiency. Alright, we're trying to improve ourselves bit by bit. And of course, we're going to go for the independent command structure. I feel like that's better for the long term. Alright, that'll do. Luo Li finished off a draft to reform the Ministry of National Defense's command structure. According to his plans, the new system would give more power to the Ministry of National Defense and the President himself. It was more independent from the Japanese. They may have set restrictions on us, but there will always be a way out. This reform can allow additional strength to be built up under Japanese supervision, and if the Japanese find out, well, we have our ways and means. Having come so far, how could we not have a few hundred hired guards before joining the reorganized national government? Sometimes Luo Li had dreams of the old days where he was still a well-educated graduate of the Wampao 4th class, a soldier in the Northern Expedition. But looking at his splendid office, it was hard to tell which one was really Li's dream. Sometimes the younger officers of the ministry would ask Li who they were fighting for, the Japanese or their own people. Whenever Li was asked such a question, he could only plaster a fake smile, telling them that they're to fight for the greater East Asia co-prosperity sphere. Yet such an answer can only fool the youngsters, not Li himself. Perhaps one day, Li can fight for China again, and for China alone. Wish you all the best in applying what you've learned in the academy to serve the military, contributing your efforts to the modernization of the Republic's armed forces. With those words, Ren Yuandao finished delivering his graduation speech, and Fang Zheng officially graduated from the Central Military Academy. He stood there, clutching his certificate tightly, tears streaming down his face. Since the day he decided to apply to the military academy, Fang Zheng had imagined the moment countless times, spending countless sleepless nights thinking about it. Now, having reached this milestone, he was finally a second lieutenant. He would soon step into the army and contribute to his war-torn country with his own skills. But reality did not meet his expectations. Once he joined the military, he encountered unexpected difficulties. Initially, his new superior had been very courteous upon seeing his academic credentials, offering him the best treatment and even hosting a banquet in his honor. However, within just a few days, the situation took a drastic turn. Fang Zheng's family was just a struggling middle management household in Nanjing. Although they are far better off than most of the starving people outside, they lacked influential connections. Fang had entered the academy purely on academic achievements. True to his name, upright and direct, Fang Zheng was straightforward and avoided ingratiating himself with any of the wealthy and influential during his time at the academy. As a result, he graduated without any significant background. Consequently, his superior grew cold and indifferent, no longer displaying the warmth of those early days. Without his support, Fang Zheng found it difficult to get along with his peers. What's the use of attending the Central Military Academy with no power or influence? Without connections, no one valued his opinions, and without experience, anyone could undermine him. Such is reality, indeed. I feel like that's the case all the time, not just the military. Fang Zheng felt his passion had nearly been extinguished while he was stuck in this lifeless army. Day and night he was burrowed under endless paperwork with no chance to use things he had learned at the officer school. Sometimes he couldn't tell. Was he a second lieutenant or a mere office clerk? But things seemed to be taking a turn for the better. As Fang buried himself in the never-ending paperwork, his old high school mentor, Zhao Sihai, suddenly contacted him. Fang had always respected Zhao, who had encouraged him to apply to the military school, and, using his own experience as a cadet at the North China Military Academy, had assured Fang's parents. After graduating from the North China Military Academy, Zhao had gone to study in Japan, and they hadn't seen each other for several years. Reuniting with the old friend naturally brought up many things to talk about. Zhao suggested they go to the best restaurant in the area to drink and catch up. Fang also had much to say. His studies and training at the military academy, his desire to serve his country, and the unfair treatments he had received in the army, all of which he was eager to share with his mentor. Zhao sympathized with Fang and slammed his cup to the table, saying, "These central faction bastards, they just hold their own positions, killing time." Central faction? What does he mean by that? But it didn't matter much. Zhao had studied in Japan for many years and must have a lot of experience. Surely he could help. After several rounds of drinks, Zhao told Fang about a local officers' club He assured Fang that if he joined, those high-ranking comrades in the club would not ignore his situation. Fang was excited, but then Zhao's next words caught him off guard. You know what? Continued cooperation with Japan is the ultimate path to strengthening the Republic's defenses. He began to share the teachings he had received in Japan, talking about Pan-Asian military alliance, the National Army's cooperation with the Imperial Army, and how the Japanese military was powerful enough to rival Germany and the United States. All of this left Fang Zheng in a state of shock. The mentor before him now seemed increasingly alien, as though the person he once discussed the future of the Republic with him had died on his way to Japan. Finally, Zhao boasted about being received by EYHE, a member of the Supreme Military Advisory Group. Damn. Okay, looks like we'll be at odds with that guy. Even after the drinking game ended that day, Feng Zhang didn't agree to join the club, and his seniors seemed to perceive his opinions, since Zhao Xinai didn't bother looking for him. Fang Zheng went back to his desk, mechanically engaging in busy work, waiting uselessly until the day his enthusiasm was completely worn down. One night there was another new recruit in his apartment, Lin Zheng. He and Fang Zheng were different. He had not graduated from military school, but actually served in the army before being promoted here. Fang admired him deeply, as a military mind that went beyond theory and had long gained experience in the army. No one in their department would crowd around him, or at least wouldn't dare glance at his face directly. Unexpectedly, Lin Zheng stayed a while in their department, actually growing close to Fang Zheng. The two often spoke together. In time, Fang's gnawing discontent came up in the conversation. Lin smiled and suddenly asked Fang to join a club, startling him. Fang Zheng hesitated to get up at first, muttering and dissimulating about his rejection. Seeing this, Lin grinned and said, "What? Has someone asked you to join a club already?" Silent, Fang Zheng nodded. "Were you invited by a guy from the North China Military School?" Fang couldn't help but stare. Officer clubs were not uncommon. There were quite a few. So how could he have known? At Fang's expression, realizing his guess was right, Lin clapped him on the shoulders. "Looks like I was right, so feel relieved. Our club is hardly like theirs." He continued to explain their club's purpose, the meaning of autonomy through force, or resisting the elites, clearing the rot, and all things in the world will strengthen the army. Lin smiled at Fang Zheng's startled expression. He was a second lieutenant, but hadn't heard of any of this? Hearing his explanation, Fang grew passionate about ideas he had not dreamt of since graduating military school. Lin Zheng became serious again and explained that their club was unlike that of the seniors, that it was not beloved by all, and particularly by the Japanese advisors. They hated it with a burning passion, fighting for the very last hope. That does sound more like my kind of speed. We're gonna go for nation above all. Military political unification? Gao asked. "Yes, Mr. President. Beyond posters and slogans, political propaganda has few concrete uses. Many fewer than, say, a machine gun." Exacerbated, Gao laughed dryly and shook his head. "I don't see it that way. The reason for victory in the North expedition was that our national army possessed a robust and wide-reaching political propaganda system alongside a huge amount of motivational political cadres. These political workers were mostly communists back then, spinning lies to corrupt the people, were they not?" Gao shrugged. "Maybe so, but you have to admit, such corruption undeniably aided with the war's victory. Such corruption created, one after another, devoted soldiers, strong and willing and strong of spirit and will. Take a look at the puppet Sheng's army too, faithless, corrupted, bullying selfish bastards who broke and ran in the face of the Japanese. Is the contrast not obvious enough to you? Well, we could select a few politically conscious officers for the position. Yeah, let's do just that. Nation above all, indeed. There is no other thing we can choose. There's only really one path forward for us." On a morning of boundless blue skies, soldiers who had completed their routine physical training intended to rest for a while, when they suddenly received a notice of a high-ranking official coming to give a lecture. They felt a bit puzzled. Shortly after, a youthful officer strode in elegantly and saluted them from the stage. "Good morning, everyone. My name is Hu, and you can call me Staff Officer Hu." After the introduction, the soldiers welcomed him with applause. Just then, he saw a strange figure enter the room. Helpful Japanese advisor. As the applause subsided, Staff Officer Hu began his speech. At the beginning of the century, the concept of a Chinese nation was first proposed, subsequently incorporated by our founding fathers into the three principles of the peoples as nationalism, becoming one of the lasting goals and endeavors of our Kuomintang. Today, I'd like to talk to you about these topics. One of these fundamental principles of the Republic of China is the 5 races under one union, meaning the interests of all ethnic groups are the interests of the Chinese nation and, more importantly, the Republic of China, guided by the policy of 5 modernizations. The Chinese nation has achieved remarkable accomplishments in various fields. As industry surges, so does our production, something unimaginable decades ago. The most crucial aspect of modernization is military modernization because the military serves a solid barrier, safeguarding our national interests. The foolish man be not guilty, but for his envy of the jewel. Time passed quickly as the speech wound down, and staff officer who noticed the grim expression of the Japanese advisor's face, perhaps he would soon report to his officers, but it didn't matter. Staff officer who only wanted to make one thing clear to everyone present: without China benefiting, Pan-Asianism means nothing. Exactly. We got better military professionalism and agricultural methods. Our poverty rate's still disgusting. Despite all those focuses helping me improve the rate of it. Oh yeah, and invest in private businesses again. In 180 days, we'll have at least 1 billion, maybe 2 or even 3 billion more GDP. Comrade Dong Shuguang, why do you want to join the National Army of the Republic of China? The question puzzled him, and he gingerly spoke. To save China? They continued. Are you aware of what the future may hold for you? He had a decent answer. At this moment in time, yes. I will do my utmost to maintain my awareness going forth. The questions they asked were completely irrelevant to soldiery, ones much more philosophical in nature, at least according to Dong's reckoning. Well, he didn't understand any deep philosophy, so he had no choice but to answer completely honestly for each one. As each question was asked and subsequently answered, the 3 officers' faces turned more and more encouraging. The last question: if you were ordered to die, would you follow that order? I personally don't want to die, but if it brightened China's future, I would give everything I have. All 3 officers broke into a warm smile. Welcome to the National Army. Alright, I think we are stuck for the time being in the military branch. We will go back towards technology. The final step towards self-reliance already. Okay. Well, regardless, we're close to being able to press the button to boost up our education a little bit more. What do we want? Political power? I think I still kind of want political power gain, because it's atrocious currently. We need a lot of it. Before the 5 modernizations began, the most advanced electronic equipment China boasted was its small network of radar stations installed by the Japanese army between 48 and 53. The stations were intended to provide an early warning for Japan, rather than any actual protection for China. These installations weren't sufficient to cover all of China when they were built, and in the decades since then, they had become outdated and decrepit. China needs a modern air defense system. Upgrading our network is absolutely vital to this. Even the Japanese agree that modernizing China's radar systems will increase the protection of both nations. Let's go. Oh, actually, we can continue with our education reforms. I mean, why not, right? I want to finish that up as well now that we have access to this, and increase our self-sufficiency and innovation. Peace returns to Yunnan finally. 2 years have passed since the bloody campaign that brought Long Yun and his insurrection to a fiery end, and after countless days spent putting out the fires he had left behind, it seems that the smoke has finally cleared, and we will gain the Yunnan lands. Look at that. They're ready for you, Mr. President. Gao Zhongwu thought little of the ceremonies inherent with the general operations of the Republic. It seemed as though he was sent to a party of some kind every time the government so much as sneezed as of late. Not that such was a terrible thing, of course. If anyone had any reason to celebrate, there would be no reason not to, especially judging from the event in question. Walking onto the stage, Gao marched towards the microphone set in the center of the platform and pulled his part notes, part script from his pocket. Good evening, everybody. I would like to begin tonight's festivities with an acknowledgement to the reason we find ourselves gathered here. Tibet, thanks to a close friend of mine, the architect of the governing powers behind the Southwest, Zhao Longxiang. With his efforts, China finds itself a step closer to leading the East Asian nations and our Japanese brethren. Another round of applause, though a degree tensor washed over the room. We are one step closer to our full and complete independence. I hope my visit does not come at an inconvenient time, Mr. President. Zhang Renli flashed a smile as he slithered his way into the president's office. Zhang's arrival had, of course, come at the worst possible moment. The month's fiscal reports had finally made their way to Gao's desk. They merely confirmed his reservations about attempting to revive China's derelict industries. Of course not, my friends. Take a seat. He already knew that Zhang was here to what he was here to do. The pro-Japanese faction's figurehead wanted his victory lap. You know, my heart breaks hearing of all the issues you've been running into lately. Truly, it does. Surely you realize this bottleneck will not be easy to overcome on your own. Have I not explained countless times that we cannot reach our full potential so long as we refuse to accept help from our allies? Yes, my friend, you have. I understand that Japan has many resources at their disposal, but what? You wish to demonstrate what China is capable of doing on its own? Well, I suppose you have accomplished that in a sense. You have proven how little progress can be made in the absence of a true sense of Asian solidarity. Take a look at Manchuria, for instance. What of it? Well, the difference between us is night and day. They have fully embraced Pan-Asian ideals and were rewarded with prosperity beyond their wildest dreams. I had countless success stories from my brother and asked why do we not take the same approach here. Gao did not have an answer, or at least none that would satisfy the reptile sitting across from him. In truth, it was the Japanese, along with men like Zhang, that held China back. There's only so much you can do underneath a boot. GDP growth and improvement of our literacy rate and poverty rate. We desperately need that. We're still up at 100% poverty rate. In a dark alleyway of Wuhan, a woman reached out the matches of our nightstand. Lighting the candle and throwing away the burnt matches, the room was lit with a warm orange light. The room smelled of wood and dumplings. In the corner of the apartment, a wood-burning stove kept her warm and fended off the winds of a winter evening. She pulled out her book, The Adapted Writings of Dr. Sun Yat-sen. The government had been promoting the memoirs as a tool of propaganda and to encourage literacy. Now, to read meant to hear the words of the great forerunner of Chinese republicanism, not just to read signs of sappy romances. Currently, she was reading the annotated version of Sun Yat-sen's comments on Pan-Asianism. His words, 40 years old, still rang true. A particular line struck her. The Kuomintang doctrine of nationalism has two implications. The first is the emancipation of the Chinese people, and the second is the equality of all races within China. Something stirred within her. She wasn't sure how to explain it. A passion for one's nation, an excitement for something great among her people. Never had she felt something like this before. Certainly not before she had learned to read. Pride for what China had gone through and was yet to achieve rushed through her. For a fleeting moment, she definitely knew China will prevail. GDP growth, political power gain, stability, yes. Our army is still completely decrepit, god damn. Increase military modernization by 4%? Yes, please. Let's get an armored train as well, I feel like we'll probably need it. Mori Takumi was doing his homework when the postman drove by. No matter how broken Japan was, at least the mail came every day. Hearing the mail drop through the silt on the door, he got excited. Maybe some of his college applications had finally come. Sorting through the mail by state-owned corporations and nationalistic propaganda, 4 were returned college applications, holding letters the key to his freedom. He opened first for Keio University. It might not have been his first choice, but it was located in a big city, and no doubt a good pick. Muro was only a little disappointed to find out he had not been accepted. Opening the other 2, he was once again disappointed to find out he was rejected again. The last letter left open was from the University of Nanjing. He had read in the news how well the Chinese education system was booming. Reports made it seem like the Japanese were a bit jealous of the new Chinese universities. Mori had decided to apply to the University of Nanjing, being the most prestigious of the universities in China. He did not expect to get in. Surely they were only letting in Chinese who were going above and beyond. To his surprise, he had opened the letter to find that he was going to Nanjing. At least he knew this was going to be an adventure. If not, then a good education. Nice. This education will actually be fully modernized. We still have to go through a couple of tiers. Same with the innovation, but, you know, we're getting there pretty much everywhere. And we get better research facilities. They're still outdated, but, I mean, come on. It's great. we're finally more or less caught up on our infantry tech, surprisingly enough. Alright, let's do some support technology, I guess. When I didn't even check this, but look, research speed is in the positive for once instead of minus 50%. And we've modernized our education. Good. Now let's get into the technological branch, eh? Or we can improve our militarization. Of course. We're now at level 2. Still don't have enough hospitals. What the hell, man? How many hospitals can one nation have? Oh, and I believe Russia is finally going to war with each other again. Get some more innovation. Both our education and innovation is both ready. Well, almost ready to bump up with the tier. I'm also going to attempt researching helicopters. Get maybe a few elite helicopter divisions out. That would be lovely. There we go. Well, we're at 99.5. What the hell, man? 3 weeks ago, the warehouse of Baoding Incorporated was raided by a squad of Kempeitai looking for contraband. While they found nothing, the warehouse staff was almost caught off guard and evacuated the lab and staff with only hours to spare. We got lucky, but it is clear information is leaking. Must make sure that we improve our encryption methods before our luck runs out. China has no official encrypting procedures. The information security consisted of trusting those with classified information to not talk about it. The process of rewiring our phone and telegraph lines to combat wiretapping and other forms of espionage will be time-consuming, but if we ever want to prevent the Japanese from knowing the contents of every message sent within our government, it is a process we must undertake. To provide an extra layer of security to our communications, several newspaper boards and math puzzles were designers and secretly hired to help develop the code language. Keep it hidden, keep it safe. We're still not quite ready for our next sleep, sadly. Again, 98.5. What the hell, man? That pisses me off. There we go. Bump education up 1 tier. We're 1 away from the end. And we're more or less 1 away from the end for the innovations as well. That's why I'm dumping everything I can into militarization. Oh, and basic literacy is turned into primary schooling. Poverty rate exchange decreases as well. Administration efficiency better. Increased self-sufficiency. Yes, please. This doesn't matter as much. It's just technology. Research. As the competition between Chinese and Japanese products begin to grow with each day, our manufacturing sector is taking every step possible to maximize efficiency. The workers live in company houses, they listen to company radios, eat company meals. We have become capitalism. All to destroy Japan. A new crisis will be unlocked. Dozens of pages of work, the kind of thing that lawyers dreamt of. Over 76 pages where was every single wrong that anyone with a remote relation to the Zaibatsu committed, and future plans to continue these wrongs. They start quite simple. Businessmen buying out factories for cheaper than they were worth, with implication of threats. The actions quickly ramped up, ranging from activity encouraging opium use to increased reliance on the Japanese to bribing or threatening. Damn, okay. Massive corruption scandal. Now we'll have to deal with that. And I think we will definitely smoke out the rats. I realized in my stupor that I had a couple of options on how to deal with this. I could turn it back into the business I took it from, forget it all happened, or try my best and live my life in eternal questioning, asking for what would happen if I had turned it in. Or I realized I could take it to my superior or supervisor and see what came of this pile of shit. Still, I was speechless when I presented the paper. Eventually, I wriggled the words out of my mouth, and in that moment I remembered the particular thought I had. I found it darkly humorous that paper was our invention, yet the ink on the paper was of a thoroughly Japanese species. My supervisor did not share the same giggling sentiment. Alright. Damn it, the North China faction wins? I hate that. No, our GDP decreases, our interest increases. A decision will be made. We will, of course, go after the Japanese. The papers have been leaked. I probably don't need to tell you what is in those papers. I will though, just so you can get it all down. All of those rumors about the Zaibatsu mistreatment of workers, about gigantic corporate consolidations across the entire sphere, about entire towns being whisked off the map, being put in some faraway labor camp, they were all true, every single one. And we had documents for each crime: murder, fraud, assault, manslaughter, embezzlement. we had landed on the motherlode of reports. You know, you gotta understand, when you're looking at the media, the newspapers, hell, the radio, that we were trying our best. All these Western standards of a press telling the honest truth, nothing but the truth, all of that is bullshit. There was no truth. China was bursting with stories, not the truth. Gao Zhongwu was the devil, he was the angel, the Japanese, the traitors, Jesus. So when our doorstep rolls up with papers, with no real authentication, no evidence for their claims, besides a few dusty papers dating from a decade ago, of course we're gonna print the damn papers. Jesus, you think your average guy is gonna buy a story about how Wang up north is opening a new shop? No, he's gonna buy the story that's screaming about how the Hanjian are destroying the country, goddammit. Alright, we're fucked. Wait, a new crisis? On top of the old one? Oh, no, it's the same one, okay. We are definitely in a world of hurt. I think with that is pretty much all the time I have left for today. We will deal with this whole, how do you call it? Political oopsie. In the next episode, we will most likely destroy the Japanese, kick them out, become full-on China. There's no need to trust the Zaibatsu. Why would we ever do that? Well, China's not going through a good time right now. Massive papers have leaked about exploitation by the Japanese and the Zaibatsu of Chinese populations, of Japanese populations. And now we stand before the decision. Will we let them fester? Will we try to compromise? Or will we smoke them out like the rats that they are? And I'm pretty sure I'm gonna smoke them. A decision must be made. Two main factions out of the group seem to emerge. One led by reformist advisor and former government official Tao Liang that espouses a view of distancing Chinese economic reliance on Japan. Tao Liang and his colleagues state that distancing from Japan will let the Chinese economy grow locally, increase nationalist sentiment, and prevent human rights violations that Japanese businessmen have committed. On the other hand, Chinese businessman Mei Seiping, along with his pro-Japanese allies, have assembled a plan pushing for continued corruption and covering up Japanese crimes. Grisang Zhang's plan as dangerously unrealistic that could lead to sanctions or potentially worse, and that it would doom the Chinese economy. As the two groups bicker on over the proper solution, trusted advisor and close friend of Gao Zhou, Longsheng, stood up and called for silence. Calling for a balanced approach to the crisis, he was initially shouted down. Gao called for them to listen. Zhao elaborated on making concessions to both pro-Chinese and pro-Japanese groups, though not completely siding with each one. And no, I will smoke him out. Cancer needs to be cut out. We will come out stronger this way in the end. The president's rude awakening. Gao Zhongwu's sleep schedule has been off the last couple of weeks. He had been loaded with work as the government continued reforming. His treasured time that he got to rest was short. That's why he was deeply irritated when he received a call in the middle of a nap. Groggy and annoyed, he almost hung up the phone but mustered up the strength to pick it up and put the telephone to his ears. All that was said that it was an urgent matter and he needed to be attended to, and that he would be ready for a meeting in 10 minutes. Probably some jumpy administrator thought he spotted something wrong in some ledgers. This wasn't worth his time, but he was already out of bed. Gao arrived at the central administrative building and got to the room reserved for the meeting. The president had not expected to see every major diplomat and economic official stationed in Nanjing next to that former Kuomintang member. Shen Xin Sheng, an unfamiliar man in a shabby brown suit, introduced himself as Zhong. Each one looked like they were at a funeral. Gao wondered what the situation was. Certainly, it could not be as bad as the expression seemed to say. Shen handed him a folder that the other officials had already read. The president realized that he was in deep shit. At least the papers haven't leaked it. Are you sure about that? I'm pretty sure we already leaked them. The idyllic town sat in the mountains, above the clouds and above the screaming gasps of humanity. There were no roads but what the travelers forged with his feet, and no worries but what was created of the mind. It was said that no man from outside the village had ever stepped in it, but that was most likely fable. All of this changed when the cloaked man stepped in with his motorized bicycle and began making curious inquiries on the villagers' working men and of the quality of the rocks underneath. Unaware of the nature of the man, each villager responded to the former, commenting on the hardy nature of each man in the village. To the latter, All the men received was shrugs and questions on why someone would care about the rocks underneath. And just as quickly as he came, he left. The man in the cloak was destined to return, but not under the same circumstances. When he returned with metal machines that consumed a shining black oil and forged roads in minutes. A dirt avenue was paved into the village, and workers from below, oil seeping in their hands, began to work. And work they did. The mornings in the villages, when the grass was wet with dew and the roosters crowed, were replaced with the rumblings of machines underground, extracting a deeply black rock. The evenings, once a time for quiet reflections and hearty dinners, were replaced with rowdy makeshift bars that sprung up to support the workers' festering alcoholism. The afternoons, when farmers went to work and herders to herd, were replaced with back-breaking labors that choked the souls as well as the body. The village was modern. I don't know about that. That sounds horrible. At least industrial independence will fix some of our political power problems. Oh, investors pull out. Damn, 3% loss, growth percent loss, interest increase. Not good, not good at all. Even more businesses pull out. Great. Exactly what I need. At least we'll have a Chinese-led form, right? Make sure the corrupt businessmen are the ones that are leaving. Fiscal crisis imminent? No. We're gonna have to cut our expenses by a lot. Still not great, but an interview with an army man. We meet him as he's off duty. A reserve man. I see the largest loss following the reforms of the Nanjing crisis was easily how the military backslided. All the Japanese generals and theorists, the one who had shaped the sphere's doctrines for decades, even before the war, they were highly influential, left. China was a hotspot of intellectual thought, including theoretical military thought, and it stopped as soon as the royally educated military theorists left. The Chinese military was left on its own to forge its own path. Alright, and forge it we will, after we are out of this crisis. One of the millions of workers in China, he labors in a large factory on the outskirts of Shanghai, stocky and well built. He is not one to fight. There's this whole perception that every Japanese factory owner was a terrible rapist or murderer or some shit, but it's completely wrong. Sure, there are more than a few bad eggs, but there were just as many businessmen paying fair wages with good business benefits. But the public and Gao decided it would be best to throw the whole carton on the ground as opposed to going through each and every one. It's a shame, really. Well, maybe I shouldn't have cut them all out, I guess. But I don't want to do any concessions. Especially since they want me to return the Zaibatsus afterwards. Initially, we were concerned about this interview. We wanted to hear people's stories, not their opinions on how the crisis was a result of Chinese marketing affecting the stocks. Before the crash, I dabbled a bit in stocks for my profession, and Chinese stocks were booming before the crash. Really, truly, I had absolutely no foresight. Looking back now, it's obvious the market was oversaturated. Companies did nothing but sit there and occasionally yield some coal, were becoming some of the largest corporations in the sphere. A few keiretsus went public. If you invested in them early enough, you were already crazy rich. I was living in an Nanjing penthouse, had an American sports car that I managed to smuggle in, parties all night during the weekends that were the talk of the town. I had 4 homes scattered across the sphere. The strangest part is, I wasn't the only one. It seemed like a third of every suburbanite in China had found a fortune and were saving it for as long as they could. In that moment, everything was gone all of a sudden. Whoops. Feels like the Wall Street crash, huh? Or the housing crisis. Japanese brain drain, let's go deal with that then. We walk in as he shines cups for what seems like forever. He will not do with anything dirty for his dear customers. The cafe had been open for as long as my grandfather's grandfather could remember. They say it's its first restaurant in Beijing. I wouldn't bet on it, to be honest. But I do know it's old. See that painting on the wall? That's my great-great-great-grandfather. He was a court official. Opened this place up for soldiers to eat at. Sometime in the early Qing, I reckon. Technically, I couldn't even be doing anything in here, as it's old enough to qualify as a historic monument. There's some old chairs there. I'm not sure where they went. I'll look later. That date back all the way to the Yuan, I think. They could probably make a fortune off of those. Anyway, this is what was left to me. Issue was, during the crisis, a mob of angry Chinese guys came on over and demanded I hand over ownership of the place to the Chinese and to get out of their country. Now here's the thing, I ain't Japanese. These guys, in all their mob-fueled anger, couldn't hear me speaking perfectly composed Mandarin. If they did, they ignored it in the name of the crowd. They burned down half the fucking place until I got a hold of the police and they shut it down. Damn, that's a mess. So after the mob went to sleep for the night and the police had broken up the night owls, there was now this massive issue that I had nearly forgotten about. The fire had gone out, but half the building had burned down. Worse, I received a number of anonymous calls threatening to kill me. How they continued to ignore the fact that I was quite clearly born and raised in China still blows my mind to this day. I got my shotgun, hid in my room above the place, and managed to shiver sleep. I woke to a sharp knocking on my door. I got out of my bed, and I remember this as if it was yesterday. Had my eyes on my shotgun leaning against the wall in the corner, and opened the door. Sure, it was the last time I was going to wake up. You're not going to believe that, and that's fine by me. It was a goddamn Japanese detective. And perhaps in the first time of the Japanese ever doing something good for this country, he was here to help. I moved to a little hotel to escape the, constant death threats. A few police officers went over to watch the shop. In the days I was away, a few angry guys tried to loot the place, but once they saw that the guns, they walked out. In about a month, there was a community effort to clean up the place. Hell, I even saw a few of the original vandals there. I kicked them out. That's funny if it wasn't so sad. And now the final focus. A thorough reform. China is a broken nation. China has been broken for centuries, yet we've pulled ourselves together despite all odds. We've entered one of the longest periods of division in our long tumultuous history, and we must make real structural change if we want to return to glory. Finally, something I can agree on. Good. He gets off his shift later than most, and when he leaves his gargantuan office, he's often too tired to kiss his wife goodnight. I didn't have high expectations in Gao or the government when the crisis broke out. In all honesty, I thought they would just take the Japanese money and shut up. Instead, they did the exact opposite, the right move. Considering what was in those papers, immediately after those papers leaked, they began arresting the worst offenders and deporting or kicking out the rest and sending them back to Japan. I have to say I'm impressed. Those papers had more than just a few short-term effects on me. Especially considering I'm the one who discovered them. Oh, you hadn't realized? I'm Zhong Yuhan. There we go. We can go back to our modernization. Fix whatever's left of the country. I just need political power for everything. Oh great, now Germany is invading Burgundy. Good for them. 11 billion income. Actually, we definitely need that. Now we're going to show ourselves to the world. Get a research log, get a bunch of money, and the effects of the slave of a samurai will be diminished. How bad is it currently? Oh yeah, we also have to pay almost $1 billion in miscellaneous costs every year. Hopefully that can get be rid for us. France demands territorial restoration. Probably if they join the Einheitspact. Oh no, they refused. Never mind. In fact, they annexed more land. China finally modernizes. Took us long enough, but we did it. The first Chinese technological presentation exposition has commenced, and while it is closed to the public, foreign press agents from across the world are in attendance, covering the multitudes of wonders in display. The exhibits display new Chinese innovations in every scientific field, from cellular biology to arithmetic, computing to experimental psychology. Nice. And now we can finally develop military technology. Oh, we do have a fiscal crisis. I don't know what to do about that, man. Combating fiscal crisis. The thing is, I don't have any political power to get out of it. We will spend our national... Wait, what? Our credit rating will be raised. I do think we need that, right? Because the interest rate is 18%. Let's press a bunch of things. Oh yeah, we cannot do that because we're currently in a political crisis. Well, in a crisis in general. Then cut military spendings as well. Oh, this will decrease our national debt by 34 billion. Yeah, I think they need that. But then also stop fresh off the presses. And can do counter pennies, so it can help decrease the inflation. Interest rate will be decreased by 60. We'll pay some of our debts in exchange for some of our revenue. Sure, I'll do that. We're not coming out looking great after this, but our debt at least is getting bought down. Oh, crisis fixed. Do I want to? I think I want to do maybe like one more decision. Our credit rating will be raised. Yes. And then we click this. We're up to fair from mediocre. Kingdom of Siberia gives us guns. How very nice of him. And now we can also get back. Developing military technology. Again, we get 10% from country modifiers. combating fiscal crisis that needs to go before we can get rid of the inflation. Because 10% is a lot. Let's moderately improve. Yeah, why would we not? Adopting innovations. Oh, we still need a lot of political power. Both our educational progress, our innovation progress, and our military progress is ready to go to the next level. I think I'll start with the military one. Because we need to get up to level 6. We're only at level 2. And it's also the cheapest to take. I don't want to do orders from Japanese companies. I'll instead go for the comprehensive reverse engineering. And next up, I'll go for our education level. There we go. Emphasize political power again. That's what we've been lacking for a while now. Since he was a student in senior high school, little Zhao had believed that sovereign technological development is necessary for China's progress. After graduating university with an engineering degree, Zhao was hired by a government-run military enterprise. He made some money for his family that way, but his task was to analyze foreign devices and machines. Day after day, month after month, the thought of resignation was floating around in his head. Luckily, he kept up the habit of reading to relax. Today, during his break, he opened a new weekly magazine as usual. The first page was an editorial on the importance of introducing foreign technology. Introducing. How pleasant sounding. But since he respected every author, he still decided to read through the article. It's paragraphs full of quotes on the author's theme. China has always practiced isolationism, as she neither reaches out nor allows others to come. These few simple words startled Zhao, as though they had touched something deep within him that had long been numb. Rushing to take in the article's ideas, he only wished he had more eyes to read it quicker. He didn't realize that madman Nietzsche, who claimed himself to be a sun, but he agreed China was not a sun, indeed. He glanced around at the advanced Japanese machinery placed around the room, then continued his reading. At first, it was British opium, discarded German weapons, then French cosmetics, American movies, and so on. How odd, he frowned, then realized several devices with English and German text had mysteriously appeared in the lab, and he'd had to analyze them with his colleagues around the clock. So we should use our minds and widen our eyes to take it for ourselves. Precisely, Zhao had surrendered to these words' power. It was not a wind dispersing the fog, but a summons encouraging him to find his own answers, rather to take it. Learning today for tomorrow's unbound mind. Let's do combined warfare. It might increase the suspicion of the Japanese, which should be fine. No, another 500 million will be added to our debt. It just never stops, man. At least we're almost done with our innovation as well. Will the combating fiscal crisis ever go away, though? We're in an oil crisis now. I mean, we just barely got out of reduced grain exports, yeah. It just sucks we have these non-stop crises that we have to deal with. Reduced grain export, appease popular sentiment, just non-stop crises. I think it's time for us to scrape the bone to treat the poisoned. We're pretty much just using the crisis to get into a better position. Let's also deal with no more tolerance. We'll kick out Tokyo out of here. Permanently. He expands security forces, slightly reduces the effects of decisions of gears are turning. Yeah, let's overturn the enemy. Appease the sentiment, enforce mandatory overtime. Yeah, we have to press pretty much everything. This moderately reduces the effects of the North China faction, yeah. Finally, we have breathing room for the fiscal crisis. Jesus Christ. That took us long enough. I think we're probably going to go into another fiscal crisis. It's definitely not helping. Keep going. Keep going. They both demand reform still. We're almost there. All these crises. How are we supposed to survive? Our agricultural reforms will improve in here. Let's go with that one next. Although, yeah, we should. Agriculture is finally stable. Release granary stores again. It's nearly out of control though, our situation. From being wealthy chief. Our GDP growth will increase, but yeah. And our industry will increase. I'm not sure I want to do anything else just yet. Oh, I did not realize we could just choose this. There's like generic, specific. Okay, let's do some specifically to the industrials. I mean, we're close already to fixing everything. In fact, I think we can press the button now, right? Now we need to also have a government reputation to be stable. Alright, maybe we'll go for honeyed words instead to stabilize our reputation a little bit more. Still not enough. Do we need 100? I'll press this. How about now? Oh, now we need to resolve the oil crisis. Are you kidding me? bad. I thought we could resolve this one first. I guess we'll just blitz through the focus tree. We lost our industry reforms. We'll get that eventually. In here we'll get 5 more reform progress for the industrialists anyway. There's a petroleum in Henan. Good. We're almost to the halfway point of our focus. Go out looking or make more? I think I want to just make more. With a synthetic dawn. Feels more fitting. And in case of a war with Japan, I feel like it's less vulnerable. At least roleplay reasons why. I don't think it'll make a difference. Gameplay wise. But I just want to do it like that. The price tag. China will have energy independence no matter the cost. I feel like that's the right decision to do. We're gonna be in a fiscal crisis anyway. Might as well get into a bigger hole. For the sake of independence. Tariffs on everyone, goddammit. The credit rating has also been decreased, so loans are gonna be even more expensive. Great. Oh, Russia reunified. The Kingdom of Rus. The Wooden Crown Man. Okay. Good for you, buddy. We're nearing the end of it. We're nearing it. Our newly developed petrochemical industry will benefit our economy in many ways, letting us recover quicker. And then expand the refineries as well, because we have no choice really. I just wish I could actually produce some political power to help myself. And finally, our GDP will increase again. Not that it'll help us with our financial situation at all, but something's got to give, you know? Finally, yeah, we're growing our GDP with 3% finally. It's nothing, considering our 18% interest rates. But I'm pretty sure the entire world is currently suffering. Riots in Guangdong. Ooh. I don't think that'll be an opportunity for us, but you never know. Regardless, our oil crisis is done. Now we still need to deal with these goddamn revolts. Or reforms. This also gives us political power, which we dearly need if we want to make anything happen. Get more debt for some silly reason. Get maybe some more government reputation. Support more reform and more reform in here. Take some more grain off of the farmers, because we will get some reputation anyway. There we go. I think we can declare the reform complete. We did it. Of course, there's the next fiscal crises. I'm not good with the economy of this. I think I might have just kept over-investing too much in our GDP, trying to make it grow. And in turn, making our costs much too high. And now I'm spiraling out of control. It is what it is. Well, at least, can I increase? No, we're still not in we're still in crisis. I need to take the stable and improving again before we're out of the crisis. But then we'll just get into a fiscal crisis. It's just, you know, never-ending cycles of death and misery. Well, our poverty and misery. We're finally starting to lose poverty rate, though. I don't know for how long that'll stay, though. Okay, but now finally, we can continue on. First off, increase our militarization. But also, I'm pretty sure, yeah, and our innovation. We don't actually have enough political power just yet. But I think that will be it for today. We've gotten through multiple crises. We're about to go through the fiscal crisis, but that one should not be as bad as the other ones. We'll fix that up just fine. And then we will finish up our modernizations just in time for the Taipei summit. And most likely, a final confrontation with the co-prosperity sphere. We've dealt with most of our big crises right now and have stabilized. And sure, a fiscal disaster is about to follow in less than a month. But compared to everything else we've had to face, we are good. I'm not going to select the fiscal disaster, next focus yet, because I'm pretty sure the fiscal disaster... Actually, no, I think I might have enough time to finish one more focus. Yeah, so let's get to it. Then we'll deal with the fiscal disaster and finish up our modernizations. And there is our fiscal crisis once again. Loving it. I'm going to make massive cuts so I can actually completely get rid of the debt. Thank you, Japan, for paying some of that off as well. Alright, our economy is stable-ish. I would have continued paying this down even more, but sadly, whenever you're out of fiscal crisis territory, they automatically give you the event. So I couldn't go more aggressively into debt repayment, so we have 0 debt. But, you know, it's no longer more than 100%, so that's something. The Republic of China, being a core member of the HOI4 and the primary driver of its development, ought to ensure the sphere's security and guarantee its prosperous growth in the ever-shifting international situation. To which Japanese say, hell yeah. And I appreciate that. The Chinese government and people have made great efforts, struggled without end, as we make strides in our national defense industry. Given our country's needs and industrial level, the Ministry of National Defense Central Staff Conference has determined that as the army continues to modernize with enemies at our gates in mind, we will construct a formal air-sea shore defensive system. Alright, and we will be one step closer to breaking free from our overlord. Slave of the samurai will be reduced. Gao Zhongwu sat in his chair, enjoying the relaxing afternoon. That's quite rare these years. He had always been a busy man, unable to leave his cage of several square meters. Today he could finally relax in the presidential palace garden, close his eyes and enjoy the sun. Memories of the past surfaced. He recalled the day he followed President Wang's path, leaving Chiang Kai-shek's puppet regime. He recalled the moment he was chosen to be the president of the Republic of China. What did he think at those moments? He wasn't sure. All he could see was a broken homeland, a scarred motherland, a tiger yet to awake. His heart aches just as that of all patriots. But he knows dwelling on pain is useless. Only devotion to one's task can save the nation. He recalled Long Yun, the mad dog, or perhaps not that mad. He understood him, as he understood all the rebels in Yunnan's rebellion. But he had to do it. There was never an alternative. They threw their lives away blindly out of passion, and his heart bled at their deaths. He did his best to save China's brave children, in case they could still serve her with their strength and passion. Some say he's a traitor, a loyal dog to the Japanese, but only many years of silent success can empower a broken country. Some say he is an arbitrary dictator who ignores the government's will, but the heights China has reached will silence them. He will never forget that he is a member of the Kuomintang. He never forgot the dream that embodied the three principles of the people, and never will he do that. If he can, he will accomplish the great aim of nationalism, the first principle. It will be a real independence, unlike the puppet regime during the Shang's rule. But for now, until his death, he will grip power and not let go. Suddenly he understood Long Yun's idea. Now he stands where Long Yun once did. Millions under his command. At his order, tigers will surge down the mountainsides, breaking their cage and smashing their chains. The armor is ready for one final struggle. We're one focus away. We can't quite do that. We're not ready to host a new Co-Prosperity Sphere Summit. I'm guessing either an event needs to happen, or we need to go up to level 6 for our modernization. These soldiers are the best of the best, Mr. President. Ever since the day you gave the order, they have been training here. These units have the best weapons, the most trained officers, the most disciplined soldiers. I regret our poor recommendations, but here is the only place where we can hide so many troops. No need to feel ashamed. You have done an excellent job here, Officer Zhong. No need to apologize either, for you have served China well. Gao Zhongwu smiled and waved the official off as he watched the men marching around the courtyard with disciplined steps. The unit stopped in front of him. Every single man pivoted 1 foot and raised a hand to the temples. Salute the President of the Republic, called an officer. 1,000 men answered his command, and the broken training yard seemed to shiver at their thunderous voice. For the savior of China, hurrah! For the savior of our homeland, hurrah! President Gao Zhongwu, hurrah! Now what's in our future? We'll find out soon. Oh, the ceremony of recognizing modernization achievements concluded successfully. The atmosphere of celebration dissipated from Nanjing, and the noisy national auditorium became quiet again. Gao Zhongwu had come along, and now he took a rare break for himself. At this moment, he looked like an ordinary, kind old man. Looking at the huge photographs hanging on the wall in front of him, one was Mr. Sun Yat-sen, and the other former President Wang Yingwei. The two huge paintings seemed bright against the red wall of curtains, extraordinary, irresistibly eye-catching. As a diplomat who had dealt with the Japanese before, and kept doing so today, Gao Zhongwu was well aware of their greed. The ugly faces of the Zaibatsu during the previous Nanjing crisis were all reflected in those puppets' eyes. The controller's true face, the so-called Pan-Asianism itself, it's just a big lie. He knew from the bottom of his heart what kind of person the revered Wang Yingwei was. Gao Zhongwu looked to the other side again. After just a glance, he turned away. He was ashamed to face the father of the Republic. The three principles of the people, once proposed by the father, had been twisted into truly unbearable fallacies, and he was one of the top criminals. He had delivered the masses into the belly of the steel behemoth, slaughtered his brothers and sisters with guns and artillery, and kissed his Japanese master's ass, all so that he could achieve the completion of today's 4 modernizations. If actions matter more than intentions, he is undoubtedly a criminal betraying China. He wouldn't speak to defend himself. Gao Zhongwu looked at his watch and saw that the time was almost up. He had given himself 36 hours to rest. This was a time to return to his job. Disputes within the government, the country's fragmentation, and a huge gap with the Japanese army's problems that wouldn't be solved automatically. Alright. The prior president was a great statesman who made tireless efforts to maintain sound Japanese friendships and aid the co-prosperity sphere. A Japanese professor lectured to his class. Since arriving from Japan to teach history at National Central University, he knew that most students would not believe his words, but he would not dare to oppose him either. After all, reporting such dissent to the authorities would result in their expulsion. Those who made it here were all intelligent individuals, and he trusted that they would remain silent. He was eager to remove those unwilling to contribute to the co-prosperity sphere from the educational system. But this time, the expected silence did not hold. At first, murmurs were faint, like a meandering stream, but soon they grew into a torrent. Finally, a student stood up and loudly declared, "Pan-Asianism is not the problem." Yet under Japanese manipulation, the ideals of Pan-Asianism have become mere parodies, twisted monstrosities. The co-prosperity sphere is nothing but a guise for the Japanese to exploit the Chinese for its own gain. Before the student could finish, another stood up and added, "That's right, Japan remains the greatest obstacle to Chinese unification. Look at how Japan has established Manchukuo to our northeast, and the state of Guangdong to our south, formed the Northwest Front Army, and seized Taiwan. The current warlord factions and regional divisions in China are all results of Japan's exploitation, carried under the guise of co-prosperity sphere. Has it really brought us prosperity? Enough. What do you intend to do? Let me remind you, Pan-Asianism is a national policy, and this university has expelled people for less. The professor has tried to regain control." At that moment, another student stood and said, "President Gao has made such an effort for the revival and unification of the nation, only to be obstructed by people like you and your Japanese masters." As the dissenters grew louder and more numerous, the professor realized he could no longer contain it. He fled the scene, knowing these students had crossed the line and that their expulsion was inevitable. All he needed to do was file a report, and the issue would be resolved. However, he miscalculated. The report was filed, but rather than expelling the students, they just gave him a mild reprimand. Soon after, he was replaced by a Chinese professor and left his teaching position. Something had changed. Indeed. There is no true day off for Gao Zhongwu's work. There are mountains of documents to process every day and a vast sea of letters to reply to. Especially right now, when Nanjing is about to host the Co-Prosperity Summit. China needs this opportunity to show herself to the co-prosperity and the world. Needed so badly that Gao had not rested for a long time. But today a letter bearing a dazzling national anthem with flaming lacquer was delivered to him. This was clearly from Manchukuo. Although Gao was prepared, to be honest, he was still a little surprised. A diplomatic letter of this letter arriving without any advance notice. As a seasoned diplomat, he frowned. After a moment of hesitation, he took it all the same. Respected President of the Republic of China, Mr. Gao Zhongwu. As Republic of China is a friendly and brotherly country within the co-prosperity sphere, the Empire of Manchuria represents all sphere members in stating that they are sincerely pleased with your brilliant achievements. His hand-holding letter trembled slightly, but he soon calmed down and continued to read. Per protocol, the co-prosperity sphere summit's location should be rotated to your country, but in the end, considering the meeting's importance, all countries in the co-prosperity meeting believe it should be held in Taiwan. Therefore, Gao Zhongwu put the sheet of paper down. No need to read what was printed below. This was a naked insult, or more to the point, a merciless humiliation, but he understood well that if no one within China supported it, the Japanese wouldn't humiliate him so arrogantly and brazenly. Someone must have gotten the letter early, it seems. Damn it, it's been moved to Taipei. Well, I guess let's go take care of the Taipei summit, huh? At the foot of the Purple Mountain, under the mausoleum of the father, Gao Zhongwu stepped out of his car and came to the place where he had been traumatized. The ideals of the past a sacrifice indication of the present realities. In the faint mist, as dewdrops stained his grey hair, Gao Zhongwu walked up the steps to Sun Yat-sen Mausoleum. Suddenly, Gao Zhongwu stopped at the mountainside, too ashamed to step forward. Shisheng, you came early today, didn't you? This is an old habit of mine, and I often come here every time I feel tired from riding. Tao Shisheng smiled, and the two of them walked down the steps side by side. Gao, why did you suddenly call me here? We haven't seen each other in a while. The Nanjing summit has been quite draining. As you know, I'm not really good at politics. Now I just want to find a successor, then go to a national university and become a teacher. Gao Zhongwu studied Tao Shisheng as he spoke with a half smile. Why, those young students are making you angry again? They are very energetic and contribute so much to modernization. That's a good thing. Usually yes, but I can't imagine what they learned that the Japanese have intervened in this summit again. Now my students are as furious as gunpowder, but since even I don't know of it, who can say that if it's true or not? Shisheng, I can tell you the truth about this matter, but I need a little help. Let's see if you can help us out, huh? Students from the Nanjing National University gathered together once more with their slogans, banners of blue sky, white sun flags surrounding the entrance of the presidential palace. At a small podium, their leader denounced both Pan-Asians and conservatives for allowing Japan's humiliating displacement of the summit, and asked President Gao to engage in a diplomatic struggle for national dignity. Guards set up a cordon at the entrance of the presidential palace, where this impassioned student were observed from a distance. Pan-Asianism in the early 1920s, symbolic in the liberation of East Asian nations, a counterattack against the enslavement of Western powers, and a brotherly union of East Asian countries. A great vision, but now the greed of the Japanese Empire has put this idealism to shame. These liars and tyrants just changed their masks and turned this idealism into their excuse to break the bones and suck out the marrow of East Asian countries. So many became desiccated skeletons lying beneath the sun's heat. Traitor Zhang Renli must go. Down to traitor Wang Yintai. Gao Zhongwu is a traitor too. Gao Zhongwu is a national thief, and began to throw water bottles and stones at the guards. Gao Zhongwu pursed his lips, returned to his desk, and stamped the letter he had just written with his own seal, placed it in a long prepared envelope. 2 letters would be sent, 1 and 2 friends were arriving by the appointment. Zhou Fuhai, escorted by his bodyguards, got into his car and hurriedly left the presidential palace. Before the car could start, students gathered angrily. The driver stepped on the accelerator and honked for this powerful man to escape from the crowd. Gao Zhongwu looked out from the windowsill. He was still waiting for another distinguished guest to come. At last, a luxurious Toyota parked, flanked by agents wielding guns directed towards Gao's men and the students. A kind-eyed old man got out of the car unhurriedly, adjusted his hat, and turned back to the students with a beatific? I think that's how you pronounce it? Smile and a nod. The students didn't dare reply. The guns pointed at them. They could only stare daggers at the great traitor Zhang Renli, who they considered a dead man walking. All according to plan, there are no so-called political innocents. Gao Zhongwu had asked his friend Tao Xinsheng to help. The reformers have a strong sense of foundation amongst the students, and with just one spark, the young and energetic students would take action spontaneously. Gao Zhongwu did not opt to wash himself clean of the summit, but instead waded personally into the murky depths. Although his friends might briefly suffer, the other factions would stand with him. Now he had won, and the Taipei summit was at hand. On this topic they could agree, a little blame to each of them. As far as the suspected direct line to Japan went, Gao was willing to turn a blind eye. In exchange, those who held the banner of Pan-Asianism and shouted about cherished Asian brotherhood would advocate for China. Meanwhile, the conservatives could use their powerful financial resources to influence what the Japanese decided. Let's see what'll happen next. All the students at Nanjing University took part, as demonstrators gathered in front of various government buildings. This time they were not as impatient as before, but remained silent as they stood, holding their banners. Most gathered around the Nanjing Police Department, standing there from dawn to dusk. Learners, students, I know you are quite angry, and I will tell you the truth. Gao drew closer. I was the very first person to receive the letter, but truthfully, I wish I had never touched this. This letter is full of Japan's indifference and contempt for us. Over the past few years, our country has grown into the pride of the co-prosperity sphere. We all thought we could gain the world's respect, but the facts show we were wrong. Gao Zhongwu paused. He saw the anger in their eyes, anger at their country's unfair treatment, their fists clenched and unclenched with rage. He sighed and continued, but I hope the students can be calmer, wiser. Former President Wang Xiaoming once said that Pan-Asianism's goal in Asian unity and the elimination of European or American bullying. In recent years, we have attained that ideal. The road be arduous. We are not some Western colony, and we will modernize on our own terms. Gao Zhongwu looked around and spoke louder. The whole country has heard your voice, and I promise you that the government will fight with all of its strength for the position we deserve, striving so that all of our hard work can be recognized, for fair treatment, for an ascendant national destiny. And to you students, I hope that you can make meaningful use of your lives, expending your patriotism in the country's service. You are the hope of this nation and its pillars. Mere impulsiveness cannot solve these problems. Let us lead us into the future. As he finished, the students who had been arrested were released from the stations, untouched. Alright, hopefully they'll fight for us now. So many events, man. Gao Zhongwu boarded the chartered plane to Taipei. He was already mentally prepared for what awaited him in Taipei. As a diplomat who had mediated between Japan and China before, he knew two things very well. Firstly, believe no verbal promises, wait for implementation. Second, if diplomacy were to work, the reason lay elsewhere. So he had no real hope for the summit, and his promises to the conservatives or pro-Japanese factions were just smoke. But he still needed their cooperation. Promises meant something different to politicians than to ordinary people. He wanted the citizens to believe that President Gao Zhongwu had tried his best to fight for the nation's dignity. Yes, he'd pull himself into the mud just to climb out on the ones he'd pulled in with him. The Nanjing crisis had shattered Gao Zhongwu's last illusions about Japan. Perhaps before that, he retained a glimmer of hope for a so-called peaceful rise. But in its wake, he realized that for China's freedom, the destructions of its shackles, war was the only way. And now China needed to mobilize. Time to mobilize, but whether Japan admitted it or not, the Republic of China had the second largest economy and the greatest industrial power in the co-prosperity sphere. No matter how reluctant Japan was to give in, for the sake of the sphere's stability, they would have to make concessions. The plane was gradually descending. As through the clouds he could make out the shining lights of Taipei, an indescribable feeling rose in Gao Zhongwu's chest. The city had borne witness to China's recent history of humiliation and might have to watch it play out once more. The Japanese Prime Minister and various national leaders shook hands cordially. When Gao Zhongwu came over, their gazes clashed in the air. Both sides knew who their real opponent was today. After a stalemate lasting a couple of seconds, it was Gao's loss. He lowered his head, bent slightly, and took the initiative to extend his right hand to this man, who led the master of the sphere. The reporters' cameras keenly captured this shot. There was the sound of a shudder after the sound faded. The Prime Minister slowly extended his right hand, still a smile, an arrogant smile. As everyone took their seats, the respective ranks of the co-prosperity sphere were evident. Their honored sovereign, the Emperor of Japan, was in the middle, facing reporters, flanked by the executive of Guangdong and the consul of Manchukuo. Then the Prime Minister of India, then the Republic of China, Gao Zhongwu. The secretary accompanying him turned on the hotel room's lights, then took Gao Zhongwu's coat and hung it on the hanger. The kettle on the table was imported from the United States and had just begun to steam. Honestly, there was nothing to object to in the contents of today's meeting. As far as Gao's judgment could tell, the issues were all quite ordinary. It mainly concerned the establishment of a foundation for internal sphere development and the strengthening of non-governmental exchanges among countries. The second round, Gao Zhongwu took the record book from the secretary's hands. This young man sure knew how to work. At today's meeting, he made detailed records of every country's proposal, the speeches, and even the demeanor of each representative. Gao Zhongwu turned on the desk lamp and squinted at the dense words. Respected President, I'm really sorry. My handwriting is too small. If possible, can I read it directly to you? Being young, he was a little timid. Gao Zhongwu smiled and handed the notes back. Then, little Zhang, please lay out your ideas and analyze the results of today's meeting for me. Okay, Mr. President. The young man cheered up and began to open his notebook. Today's meeting was to discuss plans for the future of the sphere's economic distribution and its political system. The current economic breakdown still has Japan making up the majority of most industries, especially high-tech industries. Currently, our country has the lead mostly in labor-intensive industries, which has actually caused trade conflicts between us and other countries in the co-prosperity sphere. Japan's proposal to increase tariffs on our products while reducing tariffs on other countries is actually reducing our market and room for growth, while at the same time wooing countries like Free India, Cambodia, and Laos that are looking to absorb Japanese industries. Gao Zhongwu nodded and motioned for him to continue. As for the political structure, Japan intends to improve the status of Manchuria and Guangdong, especially the latter. It's obvious that he wants it to be certified as an independent country and not just a special economic zone. Clearly, they are deliberately targeting our country's diplomatic status. Mr. President, in my view, the diplomatic situation has worsened for us because Japan satisfied other countries by disregarding our interests. Except for Thailand and Free India, which have not expressed a stance directly, the others have basically acquiesced to this plan. Gao nodded. The young man was very smart from his perspective, but still not experienced enough. Take some time to prepare and rest. There will be a third round after this. As the slide film finished on the last frame, the headlights of the venue turned on again, and the Japanese Prime Minister showed a satisfied smile. What I just played was a video of the military exercise of the Imperial Japanese Army in the new era of advancement. Their armored forces cooperated with the jets whizzing by, and they were overwhelming on the predetermined battlefield. The cannons on the huge naval ships seemed to spray flames, and groups of carrier-based aircraft took off from the deck of an aircraft carrier. Such shocking scene made everyone fall silent. In the end, it was the Japanese Prime Minister who broke the silence first. He proposed a plan. The Co-Prosperity Sphere Mutual Defense Agreement, which aims to guide Japan to help the fraternal countries of the Co-Prosperity Sphere establish a plan for a unified army they could command during wartime, and these funds could also be borrowed as interest-free loans for a development foundation. The aspect was an absolute temptation for all countries present, and they all began to whisper, if an army like this can be easily established, no matter how much the cost is, I should consider it. And almost as one, all countries turned their attention to Gao Zhongwu and the Republic of China he represented. The huge pressure almost threatened to crush him, but he still sat there steadily and smiled. So, Mr. Gao Zhongwu, what is your opinion? China will maintain its unity with the Co-Prosperity Sphere, and we accept this agreement. Okay. The entire Chinese diplomatic team was deeply frustrated. Although many of them had been mentally prepared for a failure, such poor diplomatic circumstances were not anticipated. Everyone at the meeting could hear the sounds of pouring rain outside of the window, and the raindrops hit the glass. It felt like a countdown to their failure. Gao Zhongwu looked at the young diplomats in front of him and tapped the table gently. It is not the time to be discouraged, my diplomat colleagues. A soft but powerful voice rousing them from melancholy. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Everyone looked at him as the head of state. Although the situation was grim, he still wore a light smile. As the meeting made clear to us all, the Japanese are trying to satisfy other minor countries by cutting off our national interests. This is what we shall work with. Gao Zhongwu touched his hand to his glasses, picked up the phone receiver in front of him, and pointed at it. Can we not simply provide these countries more? The Japanese are able to give 5, while we can give 10, 15, or 20, and demonstrate our sincerity. Even if we run a deficit, we can make up for it with other regions, putting the necessary pressure onto the Japanese. Everyone in the team saw the fire hidden behind the lenses of the old man's glasses, and sprang into action. The sound of the telephone connections and various foreign languages mingled together. Then the diplomats walked out the door one by one and went on to meet the foreign delegates. No one would sit and wait to die, as he'd known 30 years ago. I also just raised up my military level. Let's decrease suspicion. Let's see if we can steal some plans, eh? Because it's the final level left. In 10 months or so, we will be fully modernized in every aspect, and able to rival the Japanese, hopefully. Gao Zhongwu finally smiled, picked up the pen, in his hand and signed the deeply humiliating agreement on behalf of the Republic of China. You could already visualize the proud laughter of the Japanese, the sarcastic eyes of the representatives of Manchukuo and Guangdong, and the scared yet excited expressions of the other co-prosperity sphere nations. They all want a share of China's achievements in development, and such was the truth of the co-prosperity sphere. But now all of this will be made public, no matter how much the Japanese try to hide their so-called co-prosperity sphere fraternity, for in the hearts of China's new generation, they are a mortal enemy. High tariffs mean wages will be withheld from the many workers, and the food that supports then countries in a co-prosperity sphere must also be snatched from the hands of the farmers. For many college students, there are no opportunities for cutting-edge scientific and technological positions. Gao was glad that he had made preparations in advance to keep the political turmoil about to break out in the country as far away as possible. For this summit had pushed China into opposition to the entire co-prosperity sphere and to Japan. Its meaning is very simple: either serve us or become a public enemy. But is all this really so irredeemable? After Gao Zhongwu signed, he raised his head with a smile and looked towards everyone else sitting around the circular conference table. As the delegate here himself, his sophisticated diplomatic instinct allowed him to see something more: the deep fear and anger towards Japan. Today, it is China. Will it be me tomorrow? But many countries were confused as it was, and chose not to linger on such thoughts. Okay, goddamn. I also raised my level to level 5 in here. We should almost be completely modernized in every single aspect. The Republic of China has never experienced such chaos since its peaceful foundation in 1949. Large and small private enterprises have begun to cease operations, and everyone from factory owners to workers are launching wildcat strikes. Business representatives went to the Ministry of Economic Development to petition, demanding a boycott of this unfair trade policy. Students also went on strike and surrounded the Japanese embassy with workers. Farmers have stopped tilling the soil and have even turned on their harvesters and gathered at agricultural companies across the country to demand an end to price cuts for agricultural products. A large number of people gathered in front of the legislative yuan. They have different demands, but they all came for one purpose today: to abolish the Taipei Summit Agreement. The Chinese people have always been hardworking and heroic, but being exploited so intensely after hard work is intolerable to all. Even if they could only get part of the scraps, it'd be okay, but now some people would not even want to leave those scraps to them. And in the legislative yuan itself, the conservatives are profiting, all according to plan. The pro-Japanese faction is also pleased to have asserted themselves. Even if Gao swiftly allied the conservatives, the reformers are consumed by internal division, with radicals and moderates at loggerheads. It is no longer possible to reach a consensus within China. All the veils of harmony were shredded after the summit, and everyone with discerning eyes can see the huge divisions within China. As the president of the Republic of China, Gao Zhongwu does not wonder what to do, but continues his work silently in his office. In order to express their so-called pan-Asian co-prosperity sphere, the Japanese still gave some compensation after wounding China so severely, including nominal support for unification and opportunity to build a new type of army under their guidance. Now that he has this opportunity, Gao Zhongwu will not let it go. The conditions are ripe for him to finally start promoting the last and most dangerous of the 5 modernizations. With this, our focus tree will change. The Taipei Summit has been completed. We will unlock the path to war. I think this was it pretty much. A very short playtime this time around, but a lot of very important events were happening. We've pretty much modernized our nation. And sure, we were still at level 5 out of 6. We are an awoken tiger. We got bonuses now. And we will be ready to crush the Japanese and kick them out of our rightful land. China is modern, and tensions are boiling over with Japan. They pretty much tried to humiliate us in the summit of Taipei, which was first off gonna be in Nanjing, but they moved it to Taiwan. And they're trying to pretty much dismantle our economy that we tried so hard to build and our army. Therefore, we will go for sovereignty. We will unify the power of all China, just like we did 30 years ago, to resist the Japanese invaders once more. Ever since the Opium War in 1840, China has fallen into misery, gradually eroding. For the past century or so, countless heroes have fought against it. They used their own wisdom, warfare, and ultimately sacrificed to find a way out, to hope for this country and nation, but they all failed. Reality is cruel, and with every failure, China fell further into the quagmire of despair. The failure of 1949 almost broke the backbone of the Chinese people. The failure of the United Front demonstrated that it was no longer possible to maintain any common view on national unity. If unity failed even during a national crisis, does it mean that the Chinese nation is truly inferior? Such negative emotions permeated the entirety of China, and the people spent more than a decade in a trance. The Warlord provinces that were split off after the war became increasingly alienated from the central government, and the state of Guangdong cut another piece of flesh from the motherland. However, the modernization projects proposed by Gao Zhongwu gave people hope. A new generation of young people saw the country's rapid shift, quickly growing from an agricultural state to an independent, industrialized country. The young people call for unification. Gao Zhongwu also received a splendid opportunity. The Japanese agreed that the central government can take back the warlord regimes ruling Shaanxi, Xikang, and Guangxi at the price of high trusteeship fees and reconstruction costs. Alright, one final war to rule them all. We'll meet with Liu Wenhui. Helping Xikang with construction will not only bring them closer to us, but also improve our connection with the Ma Clique. Supply route efficiency will increase. Okay. We'll see what that does for us. A black car drove by midnight from Kanding, heading all the way to the Paoma Mountain. Gao Zhongwu sat silently in the middle of the back seat, gazing at the winding road ahead, and fell into deep thought. The secretary next to him suddenly interrupted his musings and said in a small voice, "Your Excellency, are you sure it's safe to do this? You know Liu Wenhu has been opposing us, and now we are taking only a few people to this secret meeting. Can we really trust this? If he wants to take action, he would do it when we cross the borders. That would be much more convenient. Taking action now would just doom him. Why do it? What better reason for Japan to invade than the assassination of the President of the Republic of Kanding? Ah yes, indeed, Your Excellency, Mr. President. However, there's one more thing, Your Excellency. Since you mentioned regarding the operation, the Japanese, why speak of them once we've already come this far? Don't mention it, since you won't turn back, and if we die, we'll at least be martyrs." Liu Wenhu was dressed in military uniform of the former National Revolutionary Army, with several soldiers standing beside him. The moonlight reflected on the weapons in their hands, bringing out a cold sheen. The general who led Xikang turned to Zhongwu, face expressionless, and says, "It's an honor to meet you, Mr. President." Even so, his words didn't seem particularly respectful. Gao Zhongwu was unmoved. "Thank you very much for agreeing to this meeting, General Liu. I've long since admired your great courage, and I'm sure we can reach an agreement that pleases both of us. War has come again to the northwest. Due to our preliminary exchanges with the local warlords, we can use the territory of the NRA's 40th Army Group to relieve the Ma Clique, trapped in the northwest. However, the NSB intelligence knows the Japanese are likely to intervene. Both of us cannot miss this opportunity. Suppressing the southwest has greatly affected our ability to integrate the warlords. We must show our sincerity." On the surface, Zhang Wenhu is just an ordinary civil servant in the Kanding municipal government. His objective is to sway the civil servants towards unification. He put down the note he had gotten from his contact a few days ago, turned to an oil lamp on the desk, and watched the flame inside jump and dance before his eyes. It's not a pleasant job, he thought to himself. Headquarters called what he did intelligence work, insiders call it special work, and romantic writers call it espionage. Always plenty of stupid movies into the bustling world of Shanghai or Guangdong to falsely promote his profession. In fact, whether it's intelligent or special work or espionage, is essentially the same. Despicable deeds and betrayal are commonplace. At least you don't have to participate in most despicable deeds, right? Hey brother Wenwu, do you want to go out for a drink together? I'll treat you today. Was it really Liu Yangqing? He'd known him since the start. Liu was a real civil servant, not a fake like him, and ever enthusiastic. How is he so happy? Zhang thought, and then responded, "Okay, no problem. It's just what I had in mind. Also, could you please lower your voice every time you knock on the door? My hearing is fine. I say broadcasts from the Republic of China seem to be paying special attention to us recently. Do you think they're going to annex us? I couldn't say. But I have to advise you, be careful and don't keep listening everywhere with your modified radio. Honestly, I don't care. Doubt they do much to us petty officials. Probably replace them all. Unsatisfied, Zhang asked, what if they let you continue? Dismissive Liu Yangqing wasn't bothered. Of course that'd be best. As long as they bring my salary, who cares about anything else? Yes, what you said is... Fine, I guess you're not interested. What do you want? I'll order it. Just the same as before. The sun is setting in the west. It'd be nice if we can take over that easily. We can currently disguise zero divisions as Ma soldiers. We'll fix that. Let's update the training manual as well. Get some more militarization. Liu Yinfu walked out the tent where he'd been resting. He had always been used to getting up early. As soon as he got outside, the cold, wet winds of the southwestern mornings made him shiver with the chill. It's so cold in this damn place. The beautiful scenery of his childhood came to mind again. The poor, ordinary life in that isolated village. But one day everything changed. He remembered when it was 1942. He was only 6. A group of men in military uniforms drove a truck into the village and said they wanted to capture young men. He was still young at the time and did not fully understand what was happening. All he knew was that his brothers and father put on clothes like the people who came, left, and never came back. His mother cried all day after that. He didn't know why, so he could only hold on to his mother's clothes as the tears fell. Then another 2 years passed. Smoke curled slowly from his mouth. He suddenly stopped thinking, unable to remember. His memory was somewhat faded, but more important. But in his recollections, a dull roar began to sound in his head. There was something falling from the sky. The huge flames engulfed the farmlands and mountains. The city of Chongqing in the distance was a sea of fire. The people were wailing, running, always running. I say, old you, what's wrong with you today? Are you thinking about the bombing again? Liu just glanced at him and continued to work while walking around the winding railway. Oh, you don't need to say it. I know that every time you think about it, you look just like this. The worker wore a bitter smile. It was really a disaster. And then, well, you know, it became like this. Let's work first. Aye, one day everything will be over after all. It's either them or us. Now let's turn on the lights. Is that gonna be enough? That most likely will be enough for us to actually start with the next phase. Officers assigned will strengthen Nanjing's control over Xinjiang and also assist transportation missions. Hell yeah. Now, while Gao Zhong was still arguing with the warlords for various places about the matter of unifications, an urgent telegram hit his desk. Its content were very simple. The Ma clique in the northwest had finally burst into conflict with the Seikoku Homen gun. Gao Zhong immediately realized the impact this would have on the process of unifications. His previous suppression of the NPA during the Southwest insurrection greatly affected the speed of their talks, as well as his credibility. If anything went wrong with the Ma clique, there was no point in even pursuing it further. The reunification would basically become impossible. He immediately called his secretary and asked him to immediately notify someone from the NSB to come to his office. Unification negotiations with all warlords would be shelved until the end of the Northwestern Republic of China completes the support. Ma, okay, we've done it. Oh, no, we complete that as well. Okay, fair enough. Use a diplomatic negotiating mediator as well. Repair Western Road. Send volunteers. How many can I send in total? Only 2? Alright, I'll send these 2 then. You guys go enjoy them. Can't send any Air Force in either. That's okay. The Japanese are coming, but this time we'll be prepared for them. And we get to increase our militarization again. Oh, unavailable. We're already completed it. Nice. Thought there was like a mythical 7th modernization. No, apparently not. This is good enough. Contact with the Ma clique will be established. We'll be able to send an army. Sure. 2 more days until... There we go. My boys have indeed arrived. Let's see if we can win, huh? We'll hopefully encircle a dude. Use diplomatic media. Hello? War requires a large amount of weapons, and in order to secure victory, we will provide as many weapons as possible. There we go. There's the encirclement. And the dude is dead. Actually, take the capital. You'll be able to send 1 more volunteer. We instantly got their capital. We can provide humanitarian aid. We will definitely do that. Hey, what the fuck? We actually won? How? I mean, exactly as planned. At this moment, the soldiers of the 40th Group Army are besieging the last stronghold of the Seikoku Homingun. These Japanese soldiers have turned the city in front of them into a hedgehog, with hidden sniper holes everywhere and underground tunnels connecting all of its sections. Conquering the city will come at a great cost. Ultimately, the Special Police Force of the Republic took on a crucial task for this operation. As a specially trained elite urban combat unit, they swiftly infiltrated the spaces between each of the sniper holes, systematically disabling the logistical connections to various bunkers. Continually expanding their firepower, the bunkers gradually fell silent before being individually blown up by the engineer assault teams. In just a week, Tsuji Masanobu's arrogant claim that he would hold the line for a year completely collapsed. The mad general was prepared to flee by car, as losing his life here would be a great humiliation to the Imperial Japanese army. As Tsuji climbed into the armored car, an armored squad would desperately try to escort their commander out of the city. However, the road was surprisingly clear, and the plan, which was expected to require 12 hours of fear fighting to break through, was unnecessary. Just as he elated at the thought of escaping, the whistle of a bomb split the air. Tsuji felt the world spin and lost consciousness. In his unconscious state, he felt someone dragging him to a wall, but a concussion and blood loss made it difficult for him to open his eyes. When he saw that it was a Chinese soldier, he tried to draw his sidearm, only to find that his right arm had been blown off, leaving only flesh hanging to his arm. The pain made him scream frantically. Before Tsuji could plead, a full magazine of bullets was emptied into his body. The soul of our Northwestern compatriots finally found some comfort in that moment. The Northwestern War, a victory. The Northwestern War went into a direction that no one expected. The Mach League not only withstood the fierce attacks, but also regrouped and launched counterattacks again and again. And in the end, the Japanese who were retreating steadily, it was the Japanese who were retreating steadily. Guerrillas behind the enemy lines and frontline fighters cooperated from within and without to deal the enemy a blow to the head. The Japanese invaders were finally driven out of the northwest Gobi, and now the border region between the Mach League and the co-prosperity sphere is garrisoned by our soldiers. After learning of this final result of the war, the Japanese government was furious and felt that this incident has caused them to lose face, so they prepared to attack the Mach League again. However, the Mach League was also disordered at their sudden victory, and a group of radical officers who tried to attack us emerged. Meanwhile, we are trying to mediate between the two sides to resolve the conflict in a peaceful way. Helping the Mach League was our first step in resisting the Japanese order of force. But this time our measures were too radical, and the results far exceeded our expectations. Oh, what do you mean? We won too hard? How does that even work? Anyway, let's annex Xikang at least. Dear President Gao, the peace conference in Laozhou days before was just theatrics. The Japanese might be skeptical if we didn't behave offensively. I'm ashamed of my rudeness to you at the conference, for which I beg your forgiveness. Since the fall of our nation, we have never forgotten our hatred for the Japanese invaders, continuing to struggle in the northwestern deserts. Yet our courage existed without wisdom. In the past, we failed to recognize the President's determination in preparing for recovery and revenge. Under your indirect guidance, I, Yi Yuan, have eventually realized your devotion. Therefore, I write this letter to reveal our determination in resisting Japan and saving our nations. Qinghai was detached from the center of China for more than 2 decades. Its weapons are outdated and broken, unable to resist the Japanese force. Without your timely aid, our failure would be certain, and the people of Qinghai would suffer a bloody reprisal. Having the West return to our rule will eliminate the warlord's hesitation, encouraging more forces to pay allegiance to you. Xinjiang and Tibet have been splintered from China's direct governance for a long time and will be even harder to reclaim in the future without immediate action now. Alright, we did great though. I'll start with annexing Xikang first. Give this manuscript to the daily newspaper and ask them to print it on the front page the day after tomorrow. No need to report back to me, I'm sure you can handle this perfectly well. Yes, Your Excellency. As soon as the secretary left, Gao Zhongwu leaned back on the chair behind him, slowly closed his eyes, and took a long breath. I don't know when the last time I relaxed like this was. It's been at least a few months. He thought to himself. At least tonight, I should take a break. We deserve it, because we grew. We didn't get to keep the troops, so sadly. Now we'll need to negotiate for Qinghai. Get those lands back, eh? Oh, it just increased the suspicion. We just get to annex them for free. There's no actual negotiating, but I definitely need to lower their suspicion. Oh, and we annexed the second part. Look at that. Our borders, big and beefy. Who do we go after next? You know what? Xiaowei. Why not? There we go. Loyal Guangxi, also annexed. Our borders. I'm so happy with how they look these days. We're not done yet. We have a couple more warlords to annex. Get rid of some more suspicion, please. Notice we get Xinjiang as well. Alright, our borders are very interesting looking. Now the final one. Jinshan. This guy, essentially. We'll get to annex. I'd love to build up some more dudes. I cannot. It kind of sucks. And now annex Shaanxi permanently. We'll never let them go. They're mine now. Okay, now let's go for negotiations with Tibet. Hopefully we can reach an agreement. If not, we'll crush them decisively. With the negotiations with Tibet, what does that give us though? Get the max battle planning. Oh, they reject reunification. Alright. Let's go crush them. Use my air force for, something. Should be able to crush them pretty decisively. Yeah, we actually just waltz in pretty much. Actually, I should transfer officers, which reduces experience gain and command power for a bit. But since we need to do it anyway, might as well do it right now. While we're just fighting Tibet, not anyone else. Get another unit in. We're closing into our limit. I think it's over? Yep. Our boys taking all of Tibet. I'll get back to Guangdong. Just in case there's some kind of war against the co-prosperity sphere. You never know, right? Activate an elite unit as well. Towards Tibet. Alright, it's almost over. I'll just put my units in here, right? Just for no reason whatsoever. Now, half a begonia leaf. We're trying to restore the motherland to its original appearance piece by piece. We shall not stop here. For this beginning, we shall continue to move forward. And the begonia that is China eventually will be unified again. I wonder if it continues after this, though. We did it. Half a begonia leaf. Now what? Well, the restrictiveness is gone. We still cannot alter our units, as far as I know. Suspiciousness is at level 9. What? I think they might just declare war on us soon, huh? Gao Zhongwu stood on the red carpet, welcoming guests at the airport. The secretary beside him held his umbrella. The honor guards to both sides of the carpet stood upright. The dark clouds above seemed to touch their foreheads, but the rain still refused to fall. Meanwhile, the roar of jet engines could be heard in the distant sky above. The special plane of Prime Minister of Japan emerged from the dense clouds, slowly descended, finally stopping by the ramp. The plane door opened slowly. First, a guard in a black suit came out, then the Prime Minister of Foreign Affairs, the Minister of Finance, and the Minister of War and the Navy. And finally, the Prime Minister of Japan. Almost all of the cabinet members of the current Japanese government had arrived in Nanjing. This time, only 2 countries would participate, China and Japan. The eyes of the 2 national leaders met in the air for a moment, and then, to adhere to diplomatic niceties, the 2 sides came together and shook hands with the reporters who had been waiting there for quite some time. However, neither side took their gloves off. After the ceremonial handshake between the 2 concluded, honor guards on both sides of the red carpet immediately raised their guns and saluted, looking directly at the Japanese diplomatic corps and seemed to give off a steely glow, which shocked everyone present. All the Japanese leaders couldn't help but feel nervous. Their guards subconsciously approached each of the men to protect them, and the air seemed to freeze for a moment. The stalemate did not last. Gao Zhongwu spoke first, making sure to use standard Chinese. "Welcome to Nanjing. I've been long expecting you. I told you you should have held it. You should have held the summit in Nanjing in the first place. This wouldn't have happened, brother. Now we're gonna smack you down." In the auditorium of the Presidential Palace of the Republic of China, a diplomatic banquet of the highest level was underway. An orchestra in formal attire played by the traditional Chinese folk music. Jasmine senior officials from both countries gathered in small groups. Light passed through the glass and shone distortedly on the faces of everyone present. Unusually, the North China Political Council's old adherents were all present. Zhang Renli, Pan Yugui, Wan Shijing, surrounded by members of the Japanese cabinet. They were courteous and ubiquitous towards them, ever quick to extend their apologies. Zhou and Shen's group moved between China and Japan like fish through water. Meanwhile, Gao Zhongwu gathered the Tao, Shisheng, and others to invite the reporters who came to take pictures of this explosive scene. It was not until halfway through the banquet that the people of the 2 governments began to interact with each other. Finally, the President of the Republic of China and the Prime Minister of Japan clinked glasses. All attempts of understanding each other had ultimately failed. It was now clear that no one was willing to reveal anything. If there were a battlefield, then now would be the moment when fingers would hover over the triggers. After the last song, Jingwei or Devoted Birth was played, the orchestra members bowed to everyone present, eliciting sparse applause. Thus, the banquet reached its end. This time, the representatives of the Japanese Keiretsu actually took the same side of the table as the four great zaibatsu. In Japan, this would be an explosive development, let alone the senior ministers sitting in their midst. As for why they are so united, well, that can only be answered by looking at their opponents. Tao invited the heads of departments under the National Economic Council and representatives from the businesses and agriculture spheres to sit down. As for Zhang, the finest Tsar, he had already been invited to leave the negotiating team, and this was protecting him, in a way. Many Chinese people would be quite happy to eat him alive. With both sides now present, the first agenda item of the summit began. Closed-door discussions had taken just an hour so far, and the first people could endure no longer were the representatives of Mitsui and Sumitomo. Those two companies' basic businesses, light industry and agriculture, had long been squeezed by the Republic of China's competitors. Naturally, they couldn't be satisfied, and after receiving no concessions, the two companies' representatives left the meeting directly. The delegates from Mitsubishi came out next. He had just received the news that Chairman Omiya is now under investigation by the Investigative Audit Committee. The times of private transactions had been leaked. In the end, the only representative from the Yasuda family was left. After the Yasuda crisis in the 1960s, they had already been severely weakened, and this time they came to make up their numbers. After it became clear that the negotiations were hopeless, he was willing to serve as a foil. So far, no results though. Yeah, it's not looking good, bros. Tensions rising. I think it's gonna be war. Gao Zhong once again sat opposite to the Prime Minister of the Empire of Japan, but this time he was not humbly reporting to him as before, nor did he feel the powerlessness of the Taipei summit. Now they are truly completely on equal footing. He tried his best to suppress his increasingly wild smile that threatened to break past the corners of his mouth. His close friend Tao didn't bother covering his, but then he usually greeted people with a smile. On the other hand, the faces of the Prime Minister and subordinates seemed rather worse off, wearing livid expressions and forcing themselves to clamp down with dissatisfaction and anger in their hearts. Today would be the summit's third item on the agenda. There had already been a quarrel amongst the newspaper outside. From the China's Daily to the Dong-A Ilbo, every newspaper was using front-page headlines with vivid bolded text to report on the summit. The belief expressed by Japan in the past 2 days had been very clear indeed. Japan is the master of the co-prosperity sphere, and this was an iron law that none can violate. Any attempts to change the status quo of power distribution within the co-prosperity sphere would be crushed by the Imperial Army's iron fist. Gao Zhongwu also gave his opinion directly. There was no need to discuss the reunification of China, since it was inevitable. No force on earth could stop it. This meeting is not a request, but a notification. Alright, let's go. Our time, our freedom, our independence, our home. We complete the end of the summit. The diplomatic game is available. What the hell? We can cash in? What happened? New game region available. Whoa, so fancy. Authorize unlock, sure. Explicit allegiance, attitude pro-Japan, biased. Okay, most of these people are somewhat biased towards me. Well, somewhat. How do I do this though? Let's start with, this guy. State of Guangdong. As one of the most unique political entities in the co-prosperity sphere, the state of Guangdong requires a special handling in the diplomatic negotiations. I have no idea what's gonna happen, or how this works. I can now finally actually train stuff up. Perhaps, could I do a little bit of this? Attack helicopters. Japanese companies leave. That's not great. Oh, there we go. The diplomatic game over Guangdong has begun. Has it though? That's not in here. I guess it's because we're currently still in the preparation phase. Oh, Zhang Lingfeng has died. Oops. Getting rid of political enemies, I guess. There we go. The round begins. Please draw your cards. Provide weapons. Sign a trade deal. And then confirm. I'm guessing we only get one card back each time, right? Another man dead. They got 10 points. I got 9 points. I think I should be fine in the first round. Let's do some decoupling. It's gonna hurt everyone involved, but that is what it is. Okay, round begins. A new round. Yep, first one's for us, right? I think. I actually don't get it at all. I'm sorry, I don't understand. Standard Japan. Defensive Pact. Why would I not just do everything, huh? Because apparently we get our cards back. There we go, Zhang Renli is dead and Sun Yao Dong is well. Fascism has been rooted out. Round begins again. I don't know if I get it. So far, from what I understand, I feel like I'm winning each and every one of them. My number bigger. But maybe the points will only be visible later. There we go. Cashed in again. It would be nice if the Pan-Asian Liberation Alliance grows with Guangdong. But I think that is pretty much it for this video. I know, this campaign's been going on for such a long time. But there's so much going on. The submod extended the content for China even more. And there's a lot of reading, a lot of cool events. We've united most of China and we'll continue down to the final pieces of the pie and get HOI4 TNO China, long and arduous road. Look at this China. We're blue. Isn't that beautiful? We're trying to steal Guangdong off of China. I don't know if it's working. So far, every round, my diplomatic points have been higher than theirs. So I'd like to think we're doing good. We're doing great. And we'll be in a great position to fight the Japanese after stealing all of their allies. My access denied? What? Why? Oh, does the state of Guangdong have to do something now? Oh, the best answer. The headquarters of the Canton Matsushita stand at the center of the Guangzhou's bustling district. Consul Song. Before turning to Song Zhiquang, Matsushita addressed him calmly but a steady tone. I hope you have brought me a satisfying answer after you met with President Gao. Of course. President Gao agreed to all your requests, including cooperation with Matsushita after liberation, and fully respects your commercial reforms. Guangdong will be an independent economic zone of China. Out of diplomatic politeness, Song kept his silence as Matsushita read. Finally, the crinkle of papers being flattened to the table, a reserved smile appeared on Matsushita's face. I'm glad to reach an agreement with the government of the Republic. Consul Song, I accept the treaty. We have gotten Guangdong. Look at them, they're blue too. It's an epidemic. Everyone's gonna turn goddamn blue. So yeah, Guangdong's a victory. I love this. This looks cool. Who do you want next? There's gonna be 5 more rounds, and I don't think I can take all of them. Could we go for... How do we select again? How do I confirm? There's the... I mean, it's a big old confirm button. I should have, should have realized. Let's try Manchukuo. I feel like we'll probably lose that one. The round begins. They have 12. I think we should be able to get there. Then confirm. Don't tell me we can actually win not Guangdong, Manchukuo back. That would be insane. An insane pull. I don't mind leaving this dude in here in the middle of nowhere. They're weak. They're in dependency of the Japanese, but I can easily overrun them. Old Lee was smoking a cigarette. I feel like it's been a while since I heard anything of Old Lee. Looking at the rumbling machines while waiting for the person to come and take his shift, through the haze of the cigarette smoke, he inexplicably remembered the so-called iron-eating creature that his grandfather talked about when he was a child. Alas, time flies here. China was no longer the free China of back then, and it had almost become a small component of this monster. Uncle Lee, I'm here. You can head back. This young man, forehead scarred, arrived not too long ago, could not hide the excitement of his face. Why are you so happy? Were you expecting a little girl, then got a plump boy? No, Uncle Lee. Did you hear? Political factions have been causing trouble in the city for almost a whole day. Lee frowned. Really? The youth grins. How could it be fake? And now everyone's caught up in it. The streets are full of people clamoring to drive away the Japanese. I think China's going to change and be free. Don't be optimistic. Think of the man surnamed Xiang who clamored for the national freedom and liberation. What was the result? First, the young men were conscripted as cannon fodder, and then he drowned the rest. What price did the people pay for this so-called freedom? And then what? If the mountains don't change, the water can't either. Young man, I've seen this kind of thing too, many times. The promises made by every little Sun Tzu are each more pleasant than the last. Then, when it comes to the results, we get the boot, and the promises they made fade into the mist. Don't bother joining up with them. But China is longer as it used to be. And if you think about it, this signifies that we want a fight with the Japanese. Once we win, we will no longer be slaves, but free citizens. Lee interrupted the chattering young man and asked, then if the Japanese are driven away, would our factory still be here? That brought a smile to the youth's face. Hey, Uncle Lee, don't be that rigid-minded. There's more than one factory in the world. Once we drive away the Japanese, we can build as many factories as we want. That may be so, but if he was their breadwinner, loses his job, what would the family do? When he was younger, he'd only caused them plenty of suffering. Was it possible that they'd be deprived of food again? Anyone can make a promise, but who can guarantee that it will be realized? Not to mention that his own life would be at stake here. Well, let's see. We can maybe win, man. You gotta believe. There, they got 12. I definitely think it should be fine. I mean, look at this. Next round begins. Oh, they got 24. So we got 6 here, 6 here. Oh, 23. All right, they win that round. I'm not going to confirm this one because it gives you a bonus only when you are on the winning side. And this is a round lost to us. All right, this one I definitely will win. Boom, boom, boom. I want you in my room. Let's spend the night together from now until forever. Boom, 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 boom. I want you in my room, Manchuria. How many units does the Mengjiang have, actually? Well, there's nothing in here. I might not even want to get Menjiang under my control. Manchuria will be just fine, then I can focus on all of this. And just manually walk into Mengjiang. Oh, this is a tallying round. Well, we only lost one other round, so it should be fine for me. I think it's a victory. It looks to be green. Don't I get an event for that? Either way, what do we want next? I think Indonesia, maybe. What about Manchuria? Why haven't they changed to blue yet? Alright, the round begins. What the hell? They got 28! Alright. Although, seems like we're having a very effective time. This is still going to be +1, so I'll take it anyway. And confirm for the bonus. Yeah, Manchuria's still on their side for some reason. Despite me winning. There we go, we got a bit of an army going now. 170 dudes, not bad at all, huh? I'm also trying to get a lot of airplane, well, a lot of helicopter divisions going. Boom, boom, boom. That's already enough. Do this one as well and then confirm. Next round. Damn, they got a lot of. Although we got a godlike round. Is this a perfect one? Almost. Confirm it. Okay, the final round, I think. Obviously we'll win. Look at this. Confirm. Now we're gonna be tallying the score. How many units does how many units does Japan actually have? Just out of curiosity. Actually, we have more units already. I think we're gonna steamroll the hell out of them. Happy industry from heaven. Okay. Sure. Whatever you say, buddy. Oh, yeah, we won. By the way. Didn't know if you noticed. Authorize unlock. Oh, they're just out of the picture pretty much. You know what? Burma. That's our next target. Burma, maybe Menjiang United Autonomous Government. Oh, but they are a part of the Pan-Asian Allegiance. Interestingly enough. Ooh. God damn, that's a great round again. And confirm. The shadow of the storm. Oh, we're so close. Hope that both Germany and America could help us out. Next round begins. Dude, what are they trying to do, huh? Are you even attempting to win? I don't think so. Japanese-Manchurian joint exercise in the Dalian. I thought you were gonna come to my side, brother. I helped you out. Well, I mostly threatened them. That's another great victory with Burma, though. Alright, this is most likely the final round, right? And again, a great performance. Our bottom line is national sovereignty. Everything else, the envoy swallowed hard and cautiously. Is everything else negotiable? The reply was silence. The Einheitspact or the OFN. Wherever you stand, we will take the lead. And now they're tallying the points. I wonder who's gonna win, huh? Number of chips we currently hold? The Germans, lacking capabilities for armed interventions, have shown much smaller appetites than we anticipated. They only require post-war economic benefits. However, they did mention the right to station troops in China, and even made demands regarding the naval port in Qingdao. They might revisit these demands if we ask for expanded aid in the future. As expected, we can discard their additional demands as long as the war progresses favorably. What about the American reaction? The Americans do not believe we can defeat Japan directly. They think we can at most only tie down the Japanese forces, helping them regain dominance in the Pacific. However, to show their sincerity, they are willing to provide a military loan up front. If we achieve results, they will increase their aid accordingly. Achieve results. They really believe a couple of banknotes, light as feathers, could persuade the soldiers of the Republic of China to sacrifice and shed their blood. The American schemes have been transmitted loud and clear. In the end, we can only rely on ourselves. Also, I mean, the Einheitspact can send troops. We have an actual border with them. That rarely happens. Oh, and I see Burma has joined us. Very good, very nice. Anything to weaken the Japanese further. Let's go. I think my final pieces will be Thailand and Mongolia. Let's start with Mongolia. Look at that. More dudes on the front line ready. Well, more airplanes on the front line, rather. Ready to go. German and American help. And our liquid reserve increased by 600 million. That's kind of laughable, honestly. We'll remember that. The round begins. Slander. Oh yeah, this is once again gonna be great. And locked. There we go. We'll put this on the front line for now. I don't believe anything else, right? At this point. I could make more troops, probably. Actually, next round begins. Ooh, yes, yes, yes. And then confirm once again. Bonus, 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 bonus. There we go. Pretty sure that Menjang will also join. Although, I don't know, it might be the same thing as with Manchuria. Despite us winning, they're still a part of the vile co-prosperity sphere. Next round begins. Oh, that's not that great. Should still be enough, I feel like, to win. Yeah, but it wasn't an amazing round. Bring them home. The Great Wall of China is thousands of miles long, and beyond the Great Wall is my hometown. We will get it back. We will get it back indeed. Oh, more aid from the Reichspakt and OFN, or Einheitspact rather. Actually, next round. Oh yeah, we won, obviously. It's still a part of the sphere. I don't know how it works. Maybe they'll betray him. But next up, yep, we'll go after Thailand. 2 more focuses, and then the end will be in sight. What the fuck? Okay. The enemy is doing great, apparently, when it comes to Thailand for some reason. Luckily, they stand no chance against me. Another round begins. Of course, we take this. Dude, we win each and every time. And now we wait. The final focus we can only take after we are finished our final diplomatic game. Oh no. This will most likely be a loss. I guess we'll keep it at this. As much as it pains me. And the final round. Boom, boom, boom. And 1 point. Makes all the difference, I guess. We should still win Thailand, I think. The points are being tally-hoed. Just a couple more days and we will now know what's gonna happen. Of course, we've won. Thailand has joined us. Who would have thought, huh? All of a sudden? Oh wait, there's a final one? There's no new round. Well, I confirmed it again. Just to be sure, I guess. There was no new round. Well, regardless, now is the time. We are gonna go to war. The night was long, with neither stars nor moon in sight. Wang Xing led a full platoon of men to lurk among the trees on both sides of the tracks. Look, old Wang. The little devils are still busy unloading supplies from the train. Indeed, the Japanese were still unloading sandbags, ammunition, and other supplies from the train. At the sight of billboards looming between the 2 towers, engraved with 5 enormous characters, Empire of Great Manchuria. When we've taken down this outpost, the first thing we'll do is pull down that flag and billboard. It makes me itch to see it. The flag of Manchuria, but not China, you know? And we are gonna go. We will finally be able to reclaim our motherland's soil. Asia set aflame once more. The Great Asian War GUI, okay. And of course, one final focus tree. What the hell? War plan system. What does this do? Oh, okay. Authorize unlock. Well, we're moving in, right? Ooh, look at all that green. Do we even need those war plans? I feel like we're just crushing them. Well, I mean, I did invest heavily into the airplanes. Although, no, I did a stupid little thing. Forgot to make garrison units. Well, once this motherfucker's done, right? I'll use these boys to garrison the rest. Burma wants to join, sure. That'll be it for the Vietnamese, I think. Well, at least the ones that we can get to. We've defeated another dude. So I mean, you know what? Instead, I'll just send these dudes in. And then I'll use them to guard. Our war confidence will increase by 5 units. Hostile war confidence will decrease by 10. Alright. And again, do we just call in everyone? Do we have to? Do we want to, even? Well, regardless, we are pushing in hard. I thought this would be tougher. Especially after I made a big mistake of forgetting to garrison my front line. Look at the air game. It's completely green. I did mostly invest in both. Wait, what? Oh, no. Thailand capitulated the Lao. That's what it was. But yeah, I did invest mostly in airplanes and, what's it called? Helicopters. It's pretty much the meta, I feel like. In, TNO. I heard another naval invasion somewhere. Yeah, we'll deal with that soon. We're moving in. Tell our dudes to be aggressive, man. While we move in. Kampuchea also capitulated. Now capitulate the Vietnamese as well, please. Go to Saigon, man. Take it over. I think Vietnam will fall down, right? Yep, there you go. Republic of Vietnam also died. Now these boys, get in here. We need to stop the Japanese from moving in too hard. Alright, we've kicked them out of Qingdao. Now, please guard my ports. Oh, and Indonesia also defeated someone. Nice. Look at this, man. It's mostly Pan-Asian liberation lines. Let's just tell everyone to be aggressive, man. The crown falls, Qingying, the heart of Manchuria, main artery of South Manchuria Railway, a bridge of goodwill between Manchuria and Japan, at least yesterday. It fell, we get more stock, they get less stock. Shenyang fell, we get more stock, they get less stock. It's just a perpetual thing. Oh, we can walk through here, I didn't even realize. Is that how it happened? Well, it doesn't matter. We are winning. Oh, Manchuria is also dead? Nice. That means we're left with Korea on the mainland. Please take Dairen. Don't let them have it. And there we go. Pretty much defended everything, right? Take Vladivostok real quick. And move in. Oh, we can walk through Korea into Japan. I didn't realize it was like quite that easy. Japanese sealed the Tsushima Strait Tunnel. How dare you. We keep winning everywhere, man. Japan's secret experiments in China revealed recently. Oh, Unit 731. Yeah, I wonder how bad shit was going on in here. Since Japan had so much time to just commit ridiculous war crimes. Oh, so this is the Tsushima thing that they sealed off, right? But at least we can still walk into the main island. And I just saw Menjang also fell apart. Korea is being liberated. Oh, it's over, Japan bros. It is so over. Look at the co-prosperity sphere. Notice anything? It's barely here. Look at this, the Tsushima Strait. We're taking it. Can't walk through, sadly. We don't really have much of an army to deal with the Japanese, sadly, as well. Yeah, Japan has no confidence in this war anymore. It's over, my dudes. The only problem is they closed this off so I can no longer walk in here. Now what? Taiwan and Japan has all... Do we demand? We can demand surrender. This is it. The presidential palace was always oddly silent at dawn. On the shores of the tranquil Taipei Lake, Gao Zhongwu strolled alone. Making his way from the Zishao building to the Wang Fei Pavilion, that lay east of the Taipei Lake. As he gazed at the placid waters, he thought to himself, I hope it doesn't rain today. Mr. President, we have an urgent telegram from the Foreign Ministry. It's from the Japanese Ministry of Foreign Affairs. They are requesting a ceasefire and agreeing to negotiate with us. Tell me the details. With respect to the President of the Republic of China, thus far, the conflict between our nations has resulted in immense irreparable losses, and the international situation has been thrown into turmoil. We regret this deeply, and we believe it is also against the wishes of your government. Therefore, in pursuit of the well-being of the Empire's subjects and the peace of East Asia, His Majesty the Emperor has decided to issue a decree for cessation of hostilities. All Japanese and Chinese military forces and civilians are to be immediately cease all hostilities. A military demarcation line shall be established along the current front lines between Japan and its allies and your country and its allies, with a demilitarized zone serving as a buffer. Within 30 days, a ceasefire agreement taking effect, all captured prisoners of war shall be repatriated in batches. Japan is willing to negotiate with your country, and the location of the negotiations to be decided by your government. We hope that your government will act sincerely for the sake of the peace in East Asia and respond promptly. This is it. A peace conference. Just like that. We have won. It was actually way easier than I thought. Korean occupation zone. The Koreans are free. Why the fuck do they get to keep this though? I don't know, but good for them, I guess. We've observed the situation in East Asia and the state of the empire with grave concern. Therefore, we wish to take extraordinary measures to address the current crisis and thereby inform all of our subjects. We desire to initiate peace negotiations to seek tranquility and well-being. Our goal is the prosperity and peace of our imperial subjects, sharing the joy of common prosperity among all nations. This is the legacy of our imperial ancestors, and one we hold dear. The exclusion of other nations' sovereignty and infringement upon their territories has never been our intent. How can we protect our millions of subjects and honor the spirits of our ancestors if such devastation continues? Thus, we have directed the imperial government to negotiate with the Republic of China the deaths of those who perished in battle, served dutifully, or met untimely fates tear at our very souls. We understand the sentiment of our subjects, yet the course of events necessitates that we endure great hardships for the sake of eternal peace. You goddamn right, bitch. They lost. They lost indeed. A history of humiliation ends today, and the people are returning. We've done it. Peace in our time. The negotiations venue was indicated that their Japanese representatives have arrived, Mr. President. No matter, let them wait a bit. Just tell them that we are on our way. After all, we really are. In the hall, Gao Zhongwu saw the Japanese representatives of the negotiation. Eisaku Sato, a familiar figure from the meetings in Nanjing and Taipei a few years back. However, times have changed. The once humble president of the Republic of China now walked through the crowd with his head held high. Meanwhile, the representatives of the former empire stood in a corner, appearing uneasy and anxious. Sato approached and bowed deeply, but unlike those countless times before, Gao Zhongwu did not bow in return. He merely nodded slightly and signaled for the staff to lead them to the meeting room. I believe we don't need lengthy discussions. Our conditions are very clear. China will not compromise on the issues of sovereignty and the pursuit of independence for East Asian countries, and these are our terms. Sato took the document from the secretary, reading it while occasionally swiping sweat from his temple with a handkerchief. He had spent nearly half his life in diplomacy, and so he was not unexperienced, but he still felt fear. He couldn't and dared not sign this treaty. Before leaving, he had seen the protests of hardliners in the country. Threatening letters arrived at his residence almost daily. If he signed this, he would undoubtedly be a traitor to the empire for eternity, spending his last years in fear and condemnation. However, Gao Zhongwu paid no heed to Sato's actions or the torrents of emotions behind him. We need more time to deliberate. I request to communicate with my home country. Alright, please go ahead. The hall was already packed with journalists and representatives from various countries, making the originally spacious hall feel crowded. In the center of the hall, a small area had been cordoned off, with a desk placed there. On the desk lay the treaty that would determine the future of countless people. As the doors on either side of the hall opened, the previously noisy venue fell silent. The Chinese and Japanese representatives emerged from opposite sides of the hall. As the Japanese representatives sat at the signing desk, he took out a pen from his chest pocket with a trembling hand, aimed the pen tip at the signature line, and under the watchful eye of the crowd and numerous cameras, started to write the final stroke. But the stroke did not appear. It only left a faint mark on the paper, as the pen was out of ink. Under the gaze of the audience, Eisaku Sato's face turned pale, as the scarcity of resources in Japan had been revealed by the small pen. Observing this, Gao Zhongwu immediately interjected, "Sir, you may use my pen." Sato stood up, took his pen, and wiped the sweat with a handkerchief. Using this Chinese pen, he signed a document that, in his view, spelled the end of the empire's future. He then stood up and returned the pen to Gao Zhongwu. This near octogenarian that sat down, his legs trembling slightly, and buried his head in the trembling hands. It was several minutes before he was helped up by his secretaries. It's over. The focus tree will change? There's more? No, it's just reminiscing about everything. Dear fellow countrymen, I have imagined this moment countless times. The most loyal children of the Chinese nations have joined forces to drive out the Japanese invaders from our homeland, achieving true freedom and liberation. Now we can truly feel that the Great Asian War has ended in victory. We descendants of the Flame Emperor and the Yellow Emperor will no longer suffer the burning rays of the rising sun. China has broken her chains and once again stands proud among the nations of the world. For the Chinese nation is a great nation with over 5,000 years of history, making an indelible contribution to the human civilization. Over the course of history's long river, whenever China faced threats, the people of the Chinese nation would unhesitantly come forward to protect her. We have done it. And I think with that is pretty much all the time I have left for the day and this campaign. I hope you've enjoyed this long and arduous road, and it was indeed long. I think this is part 8, because of how much reading and doing there was, only for the end war to be actually very easy, because, you know, helicopters are overpowered in this mod, but I kind of like it. I feel like it's very realistic, and they're very expensive to make. I mean, look at the amount of factors that I'm putting in, and I'm still lacking attack helicopters. But yeah, anyway, till next time, bye-bye.